Here we go. Hard to get everybody in there. Oh, looks good to me. Looks good. Thank you very much. Thanks, Brandon. Bye-bye.
Public Works, Mr. Creel.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to call to order the Public Works Committee. We do have a quorum. Mr. Lyle Fogelman is the only one that's missing from the committee. First off, we'll hear from the Public Works Director, Mr. Albert John.
Good afternoon. We have two pieces of equipment down right now. Sweeper went down yesterday. Parts will be in tomorrow, so that should be back up and running by tomorrow afternoon. The other thing is the tractor, we're just waiting on the results of what the problem is. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. John?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Short and sweet. Next up, Street Commissioner, Mr. Gilbert Oakley.
Good evening. Don't have that much, we stole some cover on the East Market at, Bayou Bay. We built 7 catch basins in Broad Acres and, Blue Lake. We removed 2 trees and grind the stumps, prepared all activities for, Mardi Gras activities and put up the stage. That's basically it. Still cut grass.
Yes,
Any
Robert.
questions?
Yes, Mr. Ringo.
Thank you, Chair. I have a work order for a pothole on Northern. Do y'all know when you're gonna be able to get to that?
Northern and west.
It just says the 1000 block of West Northern.
1,000 block?
That's what it said, but then I drove by there and, I think it's actually further down than that.
The only thing I know it was Northern and Avenue I, we took that.
No, this one's like, Northern and probably Hawk Power or something. But,
Oh, yeah, okay, that's on the west side.
yes, sir.
Okay, no, I don't think that's been taken care of.
Okay.
I've never seen the work on it.
Okay. I'll check on it.
I'll
Thank
take
you.
that in for thing in the morning.
Okay, all right,
All right.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Mr. Gilbert? Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Next up, City Engineer, Tim Mayer.
Thank you, Mr. Prater. You have my engineer's report in writing. I think again, as the agenda says, I have 3 action items. First action item is on page 3 of my report. And we don't have the numbers to fill in this evening. I will have that into you as I did last month by email as soon as I get it. I think we'll have the numbers by tomorrow, certainly by the end of the week. So that council action requested should read, approve partial payment estimate number 20 to Southern Constructors for the citywide drainage improvements project in an amount to be presented to council at its March 9th meeting.
I'll make that motion as written.
Sorry.
Seconded by Mr. Martin. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next item would be on page 5 of my report. And if you'll turn your attention to the bold F in the left margin, contract A is the subject. But again, that's an action item. I don't have those blanks filled in this evening, but I will by the end of the week. And so that partial payment to Glenn Leger Construction should be in an amount to be presented to council at the March 9th.
Motion is read,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Crowley. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
The last item would begin on page 6. This is the city-owned parking lot improvements. And the action is going to be on page 7. If you look where I have the letters J and K in the left margin, there's the update. And what I'd like to do is remind you that at your February meeting, January meeting, we approved withholding for labor and material liens in the amount of $109,073.07. And that amount was to be held and released to the contractor upon expiration of the 45-day lien period and submittal of a clear lien certificate to the city. That 45-day lien period expires the day before your March meeting on March 8th. So in anticipation of that, and also the punch list retainage in the amount of $37,387.68 is due to be released because the punch list has been satisfied. So partial payment number 11 would be for the release of both retainages to Triton Construction for the city-owned parking lot improvements in the amount of $146,460.75.
I'll make that motion as read.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Willard. Discussion. Mrs. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, that's our last payment for that,
Yes.
so we would be, we're finished with the parking lots.
Yes. Yes, there's a 12-month warranty, but we're finished with all the payments.
And this payment won't go out until March 8th.
It'll be after you approve it on the 9th.
Okay.
It won't go out until you approve it.
Mr. Cavell.
Chair, was there any retainage taken out of the punch list?
No, he satisfied all punch list items.
Any retainage taken out of the punch list? For the $37,000, there's no retainage taken out of that?
We're releasing it all,
Okay.
if you approve it.
Right.
And we're recommending approval.
Yes, sir, Mr. Stringfellow.
Okay, explain what that means, please.
We retained $37,387.68 based on a punch list, with values assigned to each item on the punch list. It added up to that amount, $37,387. Contractor has addressed all those items, and so now we are recommending and advising the council that that amount should be released.
Do we know how much we went over budget on that particular project?
Not right.
Can we, maybe, can we find that out for next week, or?
Sure, yes, it's in the partial payment estimate. We know what the original contract amount was, we know through change orders what the final amount is, so.
Okay, thank you.
I guess, is there any way we can find out what the total cost was? I mean, I know you have costs in there, and there's probably other costs that's associated with it also. Is there any way we can get an itemized list of all the costs and how much exactly the parking lots say, or all of these projects? Really, I'd like to know that, but maybe this was for sure, but.
Yeah, that'd be a question for city clerk.
Clerk, okay. Press that, next time. Okay, anything else? Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all the action items I have.
Okay, under discussion items, I had a question about the, I'd like an update on the street citywide resurfacing project. I noticed one thing that I'm not quite sure of, and you can explain it to me, is the manholes. You know, they're overlaying by 3 inches or so, and there's some big dips where the manholes are. And is there like an extension, or how do they deal with that big gap that's gonna be showing for the manhole covers?
Allowing for the need to raise manholes by the thickness of the layer, of the overlay, which is 1.5 inches in some places, 2 inches in some places. the other three I noticed. There's it's called an increasing ring. It's a cast iron piece that allows the contractor to remove the ring that's there, insert this on top of the concrete, and put that frame and grate back on top of it to get that 1.5 or 2 or 3. And that's gonna remain there until he comes through and overlays the street.
Okay, well, good, because I noticed on Eastern that there's some pretty big drop-offs where the manhole covers are, and I figured that there was some kind of ring or something that they would put on there to bring that up, and just want to make sure that that is how it works.
And he-
That's included in their contract.
Right, right. The manhole adjustment is a unit price.
Oh, great, thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have anything? Yes, Mr. Full.
Tim, just a few questions on the contractor that's doing the work. The milling of the streets is kind of happening in a haphazard manner. You know, one area's milled, jump to another, and a lot of questions I have is there any plans, or within your plans, does it show which streets will be milled and, you know, as far as phases of the project?
Yes, our plans do show what's to be milled. Primarily, we're milling curb and gutter streets. You may remember, Osimo asked that question in its editorial like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I did answer, they put my answer in the paper. The answer is the same now as it was then, is the contractor is on his own to mobilize throughout the project in a manner that he thinks is most efficient and effective. Most of our milling was for curb and gutter streets, and there are curb and gutter streets all over town that an open ditch section comes up to curb and gutter, and the curb and gutter for a ways, and an open ditch again. Well, he only milled that curb and gutter section.
Sure. I guess what the question is, within the curb and gutter sections, individuals want to know, well, when's my street planned to be milled? Again, that's what you're saying, that's not in the plan as far as the phasing of the milling. That's totally up to the contractor where he chooses to mill.
Yes, that's a detail we would not want to hold the contractor to. The contractor moves along at the pace he thinks is correct, so that he can move around at his pace and do what he feels is most efficient to move his men, have them delayed while they're moving.
Right. And the next question I've got is signage and placement of cones where hazardous road conditions exist. For instance, where the transition goes from the milled section to the unmilled, there's a pretty good bump, and people are complaining about, you know, getting out with their cars, possible alignment problems. And there's no signage to indicate, you know, that you're approaching the hazardous area, or as Clint indicated with the sewer manhole, that they're just haphazard cones, and some of them have an old wheel with a pipe welded to it with the cone sitting on. Is any of those signage issues within the plans, like a normal highway project, where you go to a section of the plans that's going to tell you what signs need to be placed where? Is that something the contractor's doing, or is the city putting those cones up?
No, the contractor has to provide signage for danger zones, for changes, it's in the contractor's specifications to do those things.
Because a lot of the cones, for instance, on top of the sewer mains, very faded, they can't really see them even at night. And just, you know, there's no consistent type of use. One could be 2 feet tall, other one's 4 feet tall. And just curious if that was something specified in the plans or it's up to the contractor.
And the contractor's supposed to make his construction environment safe and public.
And is that something that your crew or individual, your office kind of monitor to see if they're doing?
We have a construction observation individual that is out there keeping track of the contractor's activities. It's not his job to tell the contractor what to do. He'll let us know if he thinks something is going on that is untoward, that's ill-advised. Signage, I'll look into it and see if there's anything deficient there.
Especially at nighttime, you know, you can't see that transition, and, you know, it's pretty, good impact on the vehicle.
Yeah, we'll get the contractor
Let you know it's there.
to do a better job of that if there's a problem, yes.
Thank you so much.
And Mrs. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to maybe add, if we, Mr. Mayor, if we do see that, or if a constituent calls us with that, can we contact your office?
Sure.
Okay.
That's already happened. And what we do is we refer those individuals directly to the contractor's agent who takes those claims and handles.
Thank you.
We've already done that, I think, in two cases.
Anything else? Any other questions or comments for the Public Works Committee? Then the Public Works Committee, recess.
Thank you. Next is Utility Committee, Mr. Martin.
Thank you. Utility Committee, y'all still kind of hoarse. Had a body cleanser and everything else, we wait for this back and this can, again, it is what it is. We're gonna call the Utility Committee to, let's see, Tim, you ready? What's going on, buddy?
Good afternoon. Over the course of the February, we had 404 Louisiana one call locate requests. Of that, 151 were updated tickets. We had 32 work orders filed during the month of February. There were at the Hutchinson pump station here just past Western Avenue. We pulled both pumps there. They were clogged drastically with flushable wipes, plastics and things like that. We did kind of narrow it down. We were going to meet with the property owner, business owner, to eliminate that. We think, knock on wood, we've solved the issue out of the 8th Street station with those wipes. Kind of narrowed it down and put some things in place to help us there. We currently got, if you remember, in February, we talked about 2 pumps that were sent off for repair. I spoke with the guys today. They're waiting on parts from the factory to be shipped to them. Once they get them, it could be a week to 2 weeks before we get the both put back on the pump and sent back. We recently ordered a new pump for the main pump station to serve as a backup in the event that we lose a pump or 2. I want to thank the street department. Those guys hauled in some reclaim to us. We ended up leveling it out behind one of our roads that we had. It was starting to deteriorate, so we added some of that reclaim there and helped us out a lot there. I want to thank my staff for what they do, getting the job done when the conditions aren't always favorable. Other than that, that's all I have. Any questions?
Anybody got any questions?
I do. Tim, do you have any, could you report to us any exceedances that you have during the month, like DEQ, EPA? I'm sure you're taking samples and do you have, I mean, are you having problems and exceedances? Because, I mean, you know, we're about to spend on the UV and commuter and nitrogen ammonia thing and all this stuff, and I'm just wondering if you're having problems with that and you're having exceedances that the state.
I can print the reports that are sent to me. They're sampled twice a week. Knock on wood, we've been in compliance.
Okay, that's all we need to know.
When we're not in compliance, we have to submit that to Louisiana DEQ.
Okay, will you let us know that if that
Yes, sir.
happens? Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Just to recap that, normally if you do have problems, we learn about it from City Hall, so, and we go from there.
We'll hear about it from DEQ.
Correct?
But we haven't had it.
No, that's what I'm saying. If something would have came about, we would have known about it, I promise you. Okay, right?
Tim, some of the items that you had mentioned previously, I think during, when we were talking about the sewer user fee, there were about $400,000 in, I think, bush hog, equipment, maybe a truck, trailer.
Needed equipment.
Yes, could you give us an update on what's been purchased so far?
I can have that emailed to you. We got the tractor and the bush hog. The trucks, we chose not to get at the time because they were a year out. If we ordered them then, we hadn't checked into that under this current budget. We've gotten, don't quote, I think we've gotten 3, new pumps. The one that was, just ordered was 4.
Yes.
Of that list. And I could double check and email, those things come to mind because those are the ones that were pressing at the time.
Okay, that'd be fine, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank
Okay, City Engineer Tim Maiden.
Thank you, Steph. Engineer's report for utility committee begins on page 16 of my report. I do have to ask that you would add an item to the agenda. I meant to put on the agenda an item for the annual MWPP resolution. That's the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Audit and Resolution. I'm going to, assuming you do put it on the agenda, I will pass out the paperwork for it
You want that for when?
on this agenda.
That's what we need.
So you asked them to amend the agenda?
Yes,
You have to amend it.
yes, I would like you to amend the agenda to have an item for the MWPP resolution.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor? Opposed?
All committee members.
Sorry.
No result here. I'm sorry, I don't have the rest of it.
Just Lyle's not there.
Okay, Mr. Lyle's not here, but everybody else is okay?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, so if you would turn then your attention to page 19. At the top of the page is this item that we just added to the agenda. We do this once a year at this time. It's an audit. If you remember, it's an audit that results in a value, a number that the number, low number is good, high number is not so good. And I'll walk you through it in a minute.
Thank you, sir.
The resolution is at the top of the packet. The first page is the MWPP resolution. It is stating that we have prepared and reviewed the audit that's below that one page, and that you're resolving those 5 items. The city of Crowley expects to continue rehab of public leaks as needed through a smoke testing repair process. The city has a notification program for private leaks. Private property owners are notified of defects on their property, and such repairs are monitored and cataloged. 3, the city will increase its efforts toward combating I&I through a construction contract for rehabilitation of the sewage collection system under its fiscal year 2021 LCDBG program, and I will be giving you the results of the bids that we took for that project momentarily. 4, the city will be using American Rescue Plan Act funds this year to replace and repair vital components of its wastewater treatment facility. 5, the city will be using SRF loan funds and state capital outlay funds to replace the main pump station conduit. To report the audit that you see underneath that first page is an evaluation of the performance of your plant. I think probably
Tim. If you wait, hold on a second. You have to offer the resolution as read, from that mistake. Okay, yeah, let me go and offer that resolution as read. I apologize, I'm listening to you and not, okay, this, see, the resolution we voted on, whereas Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality is required that the city of Crowley, Louisiana, perform an annual municipal water pollution prevention, which is characterized as MWPP audit on this wastewater treatment facility located on Conrad Road, where the city has prepared and reviewed the attached MWPP audit, and the city of Crowley, Louisiana, wishes to guard public health and assure discharge compliance. and I just have to read the last one. And be it therefore resolved that the city of Crowley, Louisiana, hereby inform the Louisiana Department of Environmental Qualities, LDEQ, that it has set forth to the mayor and board of aldermen following actions necessary to attain and maintain permit discharge compliance contained in LPDES permit number LA 0041254. It's offered. Okay, you got a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, go. Yes, all right, any discussion on it? It was offered by me and second by, okay, any discussion? Okay, recognize.
Number 4 and 5, the spending the ARPA funds and the replacing the common user, I don't think we've voted on that yet, have we, as a council? We approved those 2 projects?
Is that tranche one?
This is for tranche one, and you authorize the plan specifications.
Right.
et cetera.
But did we authorize the purchase?
But we haven't taken bids yet, we have to do plans.
Right, so we haven't approved that yet.
Right, but what we're saying here is that this is our intention, we're telling DEQ.
But I don't know if it is our intention. I mean,
Why would you do plans and specifications if it wasn't your intention?
not my intention, I can tell you that, so it may be other people's intention, but I voted against it, so it's not my intention to spend this money right away.
I didn't mean to refer to you in the body,
Okay. But,
my apologies.
so, I don't know why that's included if we haven't voted to approve that yet.
Okay, the question I'm gonna have to vote on is this, okay, when it was brought up, it was it or was it not voted on? Clerk is here, she can give us some insight on it.
It was voted on in September.
Oh, it was
October, yeah.
I remember, it being brought up, I do remember it being brought
The
up.
plans and specifications, but we didn't approve spending the money to actually do, we never got the bids in yet. So how can we didn't approve it because we didn't get the bids?
Well, you wouldn't authorize plan and specifications unless you.
the money first.
Yeah, basically,
I didn't.
well, basically what was going on here is that we have to just do protocol, and this is protocol. So before we get the bids and everything, and the money being spent, we have to let Louisiana DEQ know that we're doing this.
I don't think so.
But I mean, it's protocol. Are you finished?
Yep, okay.
Kim?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, is this the grant? Does this have to do with the grant that we did as well?
This resolution? No, the resolution is a requirement of DEQ. that you
No, I
have-
mean, they said we did this in September, I don't remember it being that long ago, but that we approved to get bids or whatever, or we approved to spend the money in that way. I don't know, we just said that we did this in September.
I didn't say that, but.
Okay.
We don't know how much it's gonna
I
cost.
just didn't know it had been that long
Okay.
ago, so I'm just confused as to what, because we've done so many things for different pieces, that I'm just confused with timelines and everything, but that's okay, maybe we can get clarity
Sure.
later.
Be glad to help.
Okay. Kim, you finished?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's my understanding that we don't really know how much this is gonna cost if we haven't gotten bids yet, but we're telling them that we're gonna do it without knowing how much it's gonna cost, kind of where I'm at. And we're not even sure that we're gonna do it because if the bids come in, who knows? I mean, we don't know. So I just think we're putting the cart before the horse, is what I'm saying, by telling the DEQ that we're gonna do this stuff when we're not even sure we're gonna do it. But if we say we're gonna do it, then I guess we have to do it. So that's what I'm opposed to, number 4 and 5. Everything else is good to me.
Okay, are you finished?
Yep.
Okay. The resolution stands as written. Well, from what I'm seeing right here, is that you're saying that we will be using the ARPA as well as the CFF loan. Okay, it's not saying how much of it, but from what I'm seeing right here, until you can probably clarify with it, only thing this resolution does is give the authority for it to go forward, correct?
Said we're gonna
All this resolution does is give DEQ an inkling that we're taking care of business and making sure that our system is working properly and that sewer is being treated properly before it's released into the budget. That's all this resolution does.
Yeah, I don't think it puts us in a bad way. But what it does, I mean, I understand your words. I'm sorry. All right, agree.
I think it said, if it said the city may be using the ARPA funds, but it said the city will be using the ARPA funds, and the city will be using SRF loan funds and state capital outlay funds to replace the common user. It's not saying we may do it, it's saying we will do it. So that's my view. You want to change the wording to may, that'd be for it, but not will. Will to me says we're gonna do it, and we haven't said we're gonna do it yet.
Okay, but one thing you have to understand, this has to be done.
No, it doesn't.
What's that? I mean, the MWPP has to be done. It has to be done.
This has to be done,
Right, that's what I'm saying.
but not those two.
So the only thing you object to is the funding source.
I'm objecting to the wording that says we will use those funds and we will replace it, when we haven't voted to replace it yet. We don't know how much it's gonna cost. We don't know, we haven't got bids yet. We don't, I mean, like I said, to me, we're putting the cart before the horse, saying that we will do something when we haven't voted to say that we will. Who knows? So,
If I can.
that's my argument.
Hold on, recognize Jeff.
If you don't mind.
You gonna yield you? Okay, Tim, go ahead.
You're not gonna know what it costs unless you take bids. You're not gonna take bids unless you authorize plans and specifications. And you're not gonna authorize plans and specifications if you don't intend to fund it. So that's what it's an issue here. It's not the cart before the horse, it's actually the word.
It says we will do it. What does it say? The wording says we will do it.
Well, if you wanna change the wording, you have the power to do that right now. You can
Mr. Chair.
make a motion to amend it, amend the resolution.
Okay, Mayor,
In October, a motion was offered by Mr. Alderman Vernon Martin, and seconded by Alderman Stephen Primo, to adopt a resolution to authorize procurement process for engineering services for the City of Crowley American Rescue Plan Act Tranche 1 grant project, replacement of the ultraviolet disinfectant system. There being no remarks from the council, the motion has been submitted to the voice, the resolution carried unanimously.
Right.
Huh?
That's what I'm saying. We approved engineering, but we didn't approve the project. We didn't approve.
You're not at liberty to approve engineering for a project that you don't have funds for. You made every intention to use the ARPA money so that you could authorize the plans and specifications. But again, I'll say, if you want to reword it to say the city intends on using its,
right,
then that's fine.
Tim, if I may.
All this resolution does is satisfy DEQ that you're on top of your system.
Okay,
Exactly.
all right, what we're gonna do is this, we're gonna go ahead and Tim, we'll use your liberty on this right here. According to, Alderman Crater, and who else will get to the, first of all, let me have a show of hands that object to the wording, we will.
But does it
We're not-
matter if we're not on the committee?
Well, I mean, even to this point.
Mr. Reggie, Mr. Martin, Mr. Cavell, Mr. Fogelman is not here, and Mr. Griffin.
Okay, so basically, it'd be, okay. Well, so basically, let me make myself clear, so what, we're changing out the word,
I'll make the motion.
right, before we do
There's
that.
already a motion on the floor.
All right, that's all,
to amend.
now Tim, if we change just that word, you won't have any problem with this, right?
No, sir.
Okay, so basically, I wanna clarify something here. This is something that we do every year, and what it does is a notification. It's letting them know that we take care of our sewer plan and whatever. Am I right in using those words, Tim?
Yes, sir, exactly that.
So basically, we're gonna ask the body, for the change of the resolution from, what word would y'all,
Will
what do
to
you,
may.
all right, city may. All in favor of the change of the resolution?
Gotta have a discussion.
I'm sorry,
Gotta have a discussion.
okay,
So you're amending your motion,
Well, that's what I
you're
was
changing
about
the
to-
motion?
okay,
Because the motion on the floor right now is to accept this resolution.
okay.
And that's what you're open
Change-
for discussion.
Right, we changing the motion, okay, that got me confused. Okay, we changing the motion from as read to substitute words. And I'm gonna read it out. We changed it from the city will increase.
4 and 5.
Well, I'm sorry, 4 and 5, I'll follow, 4 and 5.
Actually, I think Mr. Crater is only referring to the ARPA fund, if I'm not mistaken.
4 and 5.
No, you want
Actually,
4 and 5.
Five, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, go ahead.
do you know what the SRF loan is, Mr. Crater?
No,
Okay. Mr. Mayor, would you kindly explain to him what an SRF loan is?
The acronym is State Revolving Fund, it's a loan.
Say again?
And what is it used for, Mr.?
SRF is an acronym for State Revolving Fund. It's a loan that we've had on the books with DEQ for probably 6 years, maybe longer. And you have $600,000 left unspent. We're gonna use 200,000 of it for the coming year. And we can use the remaining 400,000 for whatever purpose, UV, ammonium nitrogen.
So it's not, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So it's not a grant, it's a loan. And again, we may use it. I'm not saying we won't, but I'm not saying we will either because we haven't voted on it. To say that we're gonna do that or not.
Okay, well, let's,
Change
My
will,
understanding.
change will to me. I don't have any
Well,
problem with that.
that's all I'm
okay,
trying
well,
to
let's
do.
go ahead. All right,
But we keep getting pushback.
all right, well, we gotta get it straight.
You know,
Okay, we in discussion.
Yes, first of all, it doesn't say grant, it says loan. I'm fine.
Right.
So, yeah, it's loan, not grant. It's something that we discussed, we came budget time last year, you wondered what this extra funds were, and that's what it was. It also states in your report that you've had for several months, here in yellow, at its October 21 meeting, council adopted 2 resolutions, one for each project to authorize the procurement. So if you want procurement institute,
What page are you on?
Engineers
page
report.
is on, engineering
Well,
report.
you said
page
19, page 19,
Page
so what,
Page 18.
18? Okay.
For the process, procurement process and engineering services, means you plan to procure that which you are deciding right then. Okay, so in order to do that, above that, is very well described as to what funds you are gonna be using for that procurement process. Again, as Tim said, you're not gonna want to say, I'm gonna pay for your services and your services and your services, and still be blind as to what how you're gonna spend it. Because then you have to go back to a budget resolution to amend the budget to have his services actually used for this project. So this says that we're gonna procure those, using these funds, we're gonna procure and, the services and his engineering services for procure the project and his engineering services for the whole project. And this is how we're gonna pay for it. That's what it explained. So, I don't know, I'm trying to make it as clear as can be, just as with the parking lot and anything else we've done for the past 3 years, this is the process in which government goes through in order to get things done.
And we don't have a.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, first of all, we're getting a little bit too far out left field here. I don't think it's the question of will be receiving made engineering's services, because that's already been established. Okay? The question that we have right here is how are we gonna pay for it? Okay? Your services is let's take that off the table. Okay? We already understand and voted that we're using made engineering. Okay? I think our main objective here is the question of whether we're gonna use ARPA funds or the state revolving fund.
No,
Okay, well, clearly understood.
I've been trying to explain to you one more, again, to everybody, that I'm just saying that I'd like to change the wording to may, we may use those funds, we may not. It's not set in stone yet, but if we tell the state that we will do it, then we're obligated to do it. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Who knows? I don't know. There's only 4 of us here on this committee. You know, we don't know what the rest of the council, how they feel about it. We haven't approved it yet. We haven't said we're gonna do it yet. We're getting engineering done. I've been on too damn many projects to tell you that we did a lot of research and stuff, and, you know, the well was good. Yeah, we're gonna do it. Maybe not. If it costs too much money, no, we're not gonna do it. So I think that's where we need to be. If we just change the wording to we may do it, I think that would satisfy everybody. But I hate to be put in a position that say we will do something, and then all of a sudden, you know, we may decide we don't want to do it right now. Something else may come up. Who knows? But I just say that I hate to tell the state we will do something when this council has not agreed to do it yet.
Okay. All right, just to clarify one more time, Mr. Mayor, changing the words from will to may would not have any, adverse, conditioning on the, acknowledgement of DEQ, correct?
Correct.
Okay. With that being said, anybody else have any thoughts on that before we go ahead and vote to go ahead and,
You make the motion, change.
all right, I'll make the motion that, and I'm gonna read it out. This, I'm gonna call it Articles, 4 and 5. We're changing the word will to may on Article 4. The city may be using the American Rescue Plan Act, which is ARC. Okay. Well, this is not, okay.
You can read it.
Wait a minute.
You had it right, Mr. Martin, as you're concluding.
Okay, but hold up, okay, let me read it again. Okay, the city may be using the American Rescue Plan Act, which is ARC funds. Okay, I got it now. This year to replace and repair vital components of its wastewater treatment facility.
Yes, sir.
All right, all in favor?
And number 5.
And number
And
5,
And number 5, that was really one at a time.
the city may.
All right, number 5, the city may, instead of will, using the word, be using SRF, which is state, it's state outlay fund, revolving, funds, and state capital outlay funds to replace the main pump station conduit.
I second.
Okay, it's been offered and second, offered by myself and second by Clint. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, Tim, so that satisfy you with that?
Yes.
Sorry about that, man, you gotta just go through it.
May I continue, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, page 19, item number 9, where you see the low E. This is the LCDBG fiscal year 2021 project. You'll turn the page, please, to page 20. And I'm going to hand out our letter of recommendation and the bid tabulation for bids that were received in February.
Steph,
And this is regarding the action item number 3.
Okay.
We're having, I guess that's a question, is this item number 3, the action item? This next one?
Number 3?
Yes.
Yes, number 3.
Yes.
Tim, is that action item, it's the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it is. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Okay, I've just handed out to you our letter that reports on the bid opening. We have enclosed the bid tabulation. If you look at the bid tabulation, you'll see that we had 2 bids, one from a company out of Baton Rouge, NCMC LLC, and a company from Eunice, E.B. Futch. The ultimate totals are on the third page of that bid tabulation. MC's bid was total base bid and alternate number one in the amount of $1,801,130. E.B. Futch came in at $2,032,005. We had estimated 1.6 million, and that is the amount of the LCDBG grant. It's our recommendation that the base bid and alternate number one for that project be awarded to NCNC LLC in the amount of $1,801,130. The award will be contingent upon the city attorney's opinion that their bid and supporting documents are in compliance with applicable laws and statutes, as well as contingent upon concurrence from the Office of Community Development. I think everyone was forwarded through Joan, her office, she forwarded to you the attorney's opinion. It was intended to be a companion to this letter, but city attorney's opinion was that everything was in order for the award. So I offer that for your action.
Okay, there's an offer by the engineer, and I offer it as well.
Second.
Second by Jeff. Okay, hold on a second.
Mr. Chair, also, if I'm not mistaken, that form has been emailed to all the council members and it's accepted by Mr. Okay. That's what you said. Yeah, I'm in here. Yeah. I'm just making sure. It has been.
Yeah, ordinarily, you would take action on our recommendation, and then we'd get a letter from Tom Ray, and he would say that everything was in order. Tom issued his letter early last
He
week.
did, Ms. Jones already forwarded it to the council.
I think you all have copies.
Yes.
Same here.
Sam has a question. Okay, Sam, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so because we're 200,000 off from what your opinion is to what they are, does that come out of the sewer user fund?
Where that money will come from will have to be determined. Whether we even need the money will have to be determined.
Well, just to say if it did, is that where it would come from? And then would that possibly make the sewer user fee have to go up because that's a cost for the sewer plant?
I don't see any relationship between this and the sewer user fee, because the sewer user fee is based on the audit of fiscal year 2020 through August 2021, so this is not going to affect the sewer user fee.
Well, will in the future, maybe. Next week.
Anything's possible, yes.
Well, that's what you have.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand that. No, I wouldn't connect this to the sewer user fee.
Okay, so, any other question?
So, well, I guess what you're saying is it won't go towards operational costs of the sewer plant. And also, this 1.8 million, is that total cost for the project, or is that just for NCMC LLC? That's just their bid, right? So can we get like the total cost of these projects? Is there any way to do that?
Sure, and it's actually in my report. If you look on page, you have to go back to page 19. Yeah, if you look on page 19, if you read item 9, LCDBG fiscal year 2020-21 project, there's where we set up the construction costs, the grant amount, the engineering costs, the grant administration costs are all in those two paragraphs there.
So we're a little over, we're actually over 2 million then with all of these costs, engineering, and I guess construction observation, that's also major, I'm sure that's doing that. So that's 250 to 275 plus the 1.8 million, so now we're a little over 2 million for the project.
Sounds like it, yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
I have a question.
all right.
In the correspondence received from Mr. Reagan that we received, and I also see in your package, Tim, it's referred to as apparent low bidder. The word apparent kind of concerns me because it's like, if you got the bids, what is the low bid? Why the word apparent? leave some question in my mind as to, there's other things that may influence the amount.
Yeah,
Can you explain that for me?
I'll try. Lawyers and engineers were using that term apparent low bid when I was probably in grade school. And what it means is at the time of the bid, it's apparently the low bid. It's determined later by evaluation and by a letter of recommendation that we're offering you today that it's no longer a apparent low bid. It is the low bid, and we're recommending you award a contract in that amount.
Right, but Mr. Reagan's letter refers to apparent low bids, so apparently, he didn't see the bids either.
He saw the bids, and he just referred to it that way last week. You'll have to ask him why he continued to use the phrase, but it is the low bid. We found no mistakes in it, we found no irregularities in it, we found no reason not to recommend it be awarded in that amount. So it loses the adjective apparent over the course of a few days, after it's evaluated and recommended.
But I think correspondence I received from Mayor's Administrative Assistant, Mr. Reagan didn't have the bids, and he didn't look at the bids. He solely relied on what,
He looked at the low bid.
he didn't see the actual bids. When will the bids open, I guess, that's the question. Who's present during the bid opening?
February 17th, it's on the show.
Right, and where are those bids open? At City Hall?
These are open online. Nowadays, most bids are done online.
Okay, I'm just trying to confirm that, what the low bid is actually the low bid.
The low bid is the low bid.
Okay, so we can take the word apparent out, that may keep difference.
You can take the word parent out today, and from here on, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Kim?
And I'm sure the answer is yes, but we only had 2 bids. So
Two
just
bids
the two.
shown, yes.
Okay.
Those are the only bids.
Okay, any other questions?
I mean, it's 1.6 million. And then additional 400,000. Once we finish the whole total project gonna be 2 million. So where the 400,000 coming to finish this project? That's what most people trying to figure out. I mean, don't look at me, I ain't got the answer. I'm asking the city engineer.
Well, it's an accounting question, so again, you have to go to the city clerk and that,
I mean, there's
That's
a
where you-
mayor, the mayor should be able to answer that question too.
Ask it again.
Or we have a county representative to answer that question.
Ask it again. The question,
The
please.
project is worth 1.6 million.
1.6 million.
But once we,
Project that's worth
That's
it.
with the grant.
that's the grant.
That was a grant. That
But
was
once
at
we
the time.
finish, it's right at 2 million. Oh, really? So where the extra money coming
I
from?
would imagine increase in cost. We got a bid, it was 1.8 million.
I don't think you understand what he's saying.
What fund is it
Not following his question.
Well, I'm trying to understand it myself, okay? Okay.
I think what he's asking is there's gonna be an additional $450,000 or $475,000 that we're gonna have to come up with, because the grant's only for 1.6 million, means we're wondering, what account, where's that coming, the extra 475 or 450,000 coming from?
Or where will it
Is
come
it gonna come
from?
out of the general fund, it's gonna come out of utility funds, it's gonna come out, I mean, we can go
We're
down
not
the
sure
list.
exactly where it's gonna come from just yet, but it's gotta come from somewhere if we're going to do it and conclude and comply.
So you don't know where it's coming from.
It could come from a number of different places.
but the fact of the matter
We
is,
know that, but we wondered where it's coming from.
Mayor, so wherever it has to come from, the city can handle, it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the main thing, I think.
Thank you.
You know, the exact place where the money gonna come from is unknown right now, but at the end of the day, the money is there for it. I do understand what you're saying, but
Reggie was asking.
That's what I was saying, I didn't know if it was coming out of the utility fund, and then the utility fund goes up, and have to go over, so the user fee has to go up to cover that.
That's a good question.
well, I think it's gonna be referred back to finance.
Okay, maybe different.
I'll take a stab. Anything that infrastructure that, is gonna be applied to the sewer plant, yes, will be applied to operations due to depreciation.
Yes.
So to answer that question, that's a given. To answer your question, when these grants are filed for initially 2-3 years, if not more. So the funding at the time in which the grant was initiated was adequate to fund this project. Okay, so, yes, we're a little short. Will it eventually affect the bottom line? Yeah, by the amount in which you're short. But the city is solvent in order to be able to pay for whatever remains afterward the grant's not gonna cover.
That's, well, my question was, is it gonna come out of the sewer, will it make the sewer user fee go up because of operational
No,
costs?
sir. No, sir.
That directly, no.
No, sir.
That's what my original question.
Right, that was Mr. Mayor's answer earlier, that it would not be indirect.
Yeah, I mean, either way we go with it, the money is, the city has the money to appropriate to, follow. So that's not a problem.
But
And Mr. Chair.
it's operational costs, it's okay, sir.
Well,
It goes against operational costs, then it's for you.
Mr.
no, it's not operational. Man,
Yes, sir, and the answer to Mr. Reddy's question, no, it would not have any influencement as well as the sewer user fee going up by whenever we can, or you guys are gonna be meeting at your next session. Because like Mr. Cavell said, that the city should be sound enough to be able to pay for that difference.
and I like to just voice this right here. We've been doing, and I'm just gonna say it like it is. We've been basically handling stuff like this for a minute. And I understand the questions, but normally when, figures are brought up like that, there's a place where the money has been sourced. Okay, I know it's a question, but at the end of the day, the integrity, is always in place. I never witnessed, not no time that, and not because he's here, but this mayor bringing up things that have a questionable, Trevor just said that's questionable. So, the grant is 1.8, and with everything else, we're looking at how much?
The grant is 1.6 and the estimate is 1.8.
1.6, and the estimate is 1.8,
2.05.
two altogether. Okay. All right, any other questions? Any other questions about the funding? Okay, it has been resolved that it's not gonna raise the sewer user fee. And, so, that was your question, right? Okay, you ready to offer? We haven't voted on this yet, right? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Any other discussion, nobody has no other discussion on it? Okay, motion carried. That's all the action items I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir. Okay, anything else to come before utilities? We recess.
Thank you. Next is recreation, and that would be Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. Recreation Committee will convene. We do have a quorum. Lyle and Stephen are absent. First off, we'll have to hear from the Recreation Director, Mr. Peter Kirsch, who's already up there.
Good evening. Just wanted to keep the momentum going. Baseball and softball is, for the youth league this year, registration has closed. The teams have been drafted, coaches will be getting their packets and their rosters this week, and practice will begin next week. Our participation has grown by exactly 50 kids from last year to this year, so we're moving in the right direction. I noticed that there was a request by Mr. Crater about a signage update, and we will be starting our fundraising or our sponsorship campaign this month, and you should start seeing some signs by the end of April.
Well, I think the signage I'm referring to is how do you get to the park? I saw somebody the other day that went past and turned around and came back because there's nothing important to Mustang Park where, you know, if you have a game at Heritage Park where you go, you know, Mustang especially, that's a bad one. So that's the kind of signage that I was hoping for, and also coming off of the interstate, if we could direct them downtown to get to our sports complex, that's the signage I'm looking for.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. We are currently working with DOTD. We have some proposed sites that we want to put up. We just need their permission to put them on certain spots. We just
finalize our new logo, so we'll be submitting our new logo for a sign. And I'm hoping within the next 30 days, we should start seeing some signage up I-10 through Crowley, and then once you get to the park. Direct, and also, when you walk in, physically walk into the park, we went like I guess I'm gonna date myself, when you used to go to Acadiana Mall, you know, and you could look at like on a podium, a site map that would show you the layout of the field when you walked in, instead of having to read it from your car. So within the next 30 to 45 days, we should start seeing road signs as well as advertisement in the park.
Right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Look, if you're in the mood for baseball, I got another great deal for you this weekend. Tomorrow night actually starts the 17th annual Gilbert TV tournament. It's the tournament that Crowley High Baseball puts on every year. They have 6 teams coming to Crowley this year. Iota, Welch, Jennings, and Warren Easton High School is coming in from New Orleans. So come give them a great show, and the kids have worked hard and be hospitable and show them what Crowley is all about. On the other side of the park, the other 8 fields, we have 55 teams coming in for a select travel ball tournament. That'll be starting up at 9 o'clock Saturday morning, and games will probably run till about 10 or 10:30 Saturday night, and then it'll crank all back up at 8 o'clock Sunday morning, and probably run till about 6 or 7 o'clock Sunday night. So if you like baseball, this is a good weekend to come out to the park and visit us. Along with that, like I just said, Crowley High has Warren Easton High School coming in from New Orleans, but we're also seeing teams coming in from Alexandria, Baton Rouge, Lake Charles, Livingston, Berwick, DeRidder, Pineville, Kinder, Monroe, and Houghton. And that's not to mention the Lafayette, Youngsville, Maurice, those are neighborhood kids, I call them. But we have people from out of town. Monroe and Houghton is interesting. If those of you have followed the recreation world, they built a megaplex in Ruston, and they're driving right past that to come to Crowley this weekend. So I'm really excited about that. Along with the tournaments cranking up, high school baseball cranking up this month, we've also been hosting the Junior High Catholic League tournament, the league games. I'm getting ahead of myself. This year, we were able to pull teams from the Karen Crow Pelican Park Complex, Broussard Complex. So St. Michael's got to play their home games at home on the turf. And those teams are 5th and 6th grade teams all the way up to 7th and 8th grade baseball and softball. We've also kicked off our junior varsity baseball league this year, and there's actually 2 games scheduled tonight at Heritage Field. That league runs 2 to 3 nights a week between Miller and Heritage. And I point all of this out just to kind of bring you up to speed on where we were at last year at this time. Last year at this time, we had just opened up Miller Stadium, and that was the only field that was available to us. We were not able to start hosting anything other than high school baseball and practices until the end of March. And when we got to the end of March, we had, I think, 5 fields or 4 fields that were available to us, and only 2 of those had lights at that time. So we're starting this season off with a bang. We're getting a really good head start on things, and we have much more interest going into next season and into this fall. We're already starting to book a few of the fall dates too, which is also early. That usually doesn't happen until May or June, but we're getting inquiries, and I booked 2 weekends last week for this coming fall. So, any questions?
I just have a comment. I sure hope that people are listening, because you got people coming in from Monroe and Houghton and New Orleans and all these places. It sure would be nice if we could keep them here in Crowley, you know. So hopefully somebody's listening that's interested in that.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
if I could, I want to commend Peter on a job well done at the Recreation Department with you and your staff, because I know I was out there the other night for tryouts, and we had a bunch of kids out there, 7 and 8 year old, and there was a much increased percentage from the year before and the year before that. So that we, just folks, just to let you know, that one little age group, 7, 8 year olds, we had 106 kids out there at a tryout, and that was time consuming. But thank you.
Thank y'all, but I would like to extend that thank you to my staff, because there's just no way. And the recreation department is run by dedicated men and women, but it's also the parental support that we get, the volunteer support. We could have 20,000 kids in the $1 trillion budget, but it's all for nothing if we can't get parents and the citizens of Crowley. And one thing that I didn't mention in my report, but I'll mention it now, I've got 4 coaches this year that do not have children participating in the league. They just want to get involved, they want to help, and I know in today's terms you have to be careful, but it is a law, and we do follow that law. Everyone passes a background check. We go through a federal background check on all of our volunteers and everybody that's involved with the kids. And so it's reassuring to see the community getting involved, not just from the kid participation, but from the grandfathers and the young men. That we got one young man that's 22 years old that's thinking about going to school for coaching and wanted to volunteer and see if this is what he wants to do. So, yes, sir. March 24th is a big date for us. That is actually 3 weeks from tomorrow. We have, as I mentioned before, the flag that was donated by the Lions Club. We're going to have a formal flag dedication. And I was really impressed to know what goes on with a flag dedication. The honor guard will be there. There will be a 21-gun salute. I think there's a young lady from the Crowley High Choir who's going to sing the national anthem. There's going to be a poem read by a Northside Christian student. There was an invitation extended to the veterans of foreign wars, to the American Legion, and also to Encore and Southwind nursing homes to invite their veterans for an outing. So hopefully, knock on wood, pray for the weather that we've been having today and tomorrow for that day.
You have a time? Yeah.
3 p.m.
We haven't heard this evening.
3 p.m. Yes. We still have some details that are being finalized, but it is set for 3 p.m. And then 24th. March 24th at 3 p.m. And then there'll be a grand opening for the complex at 5 p.m. in the Rice Festival building.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Court.
Yes, sir.
Could you give us an update on the program director? What's he doing? I know that you hired one.
Yes, just the Gill pageant. So what the mayor was talking about with our tryouts, we kind of revamped and redid the way we would do our evaluation process. So what he has done is he's given me input, he's taken pieces of what we did, took pieces of what he did, and we evaluated all the kids that signed up to play ball, and they got a rating. It was a rating scale from 1 being the best kid out there to 3 probably needing a little bit more work than the rest. And the 2s fell in the middle. So he put together a program where we evaluated all of these kids on site. He brought in all the feedback that we got from the coaches, all their opinions on how these kids should be rated. He also kept his own grading. He brought all that information back and then averaged out all the kids. Then what he did was he took all of those kids who rated from a 1.0 to a 1.9, put them in one category, and a 2.0 to a 2.9 in another category, and you see where this is going, a 3.0 and above. The kids who did not come to the evaluation were not what we call draft eligible kids, and just hear me out on this. The coaches came in after we took those averages, and they drafted all those kids that were draft eligible. I'm not saying that it's done purposely, but I know that it's happened before, where if you have a kid that you know that's coming to Crowley for the first time that can play ball, who's a ringer, maybe you don't want the other coaches to see him. So what we did with those kids went into a hat pick. And after the kids who were evaluated were picked for the teams first, then that hat went around the table amongst the coaches, and those kids were drawn from a hat until the roster was filled. Every kid was put on a team. This is not a tryout as far as cutting kids or sending kids home. Every kid's put on a team because our goal is to make the most competitive leagues that we can and disperse the talent evenly. Because the last thing we want in a 3-team league or a 4-team league is one team beating everybody 25-0. And I got 2 teams that don't want to come and get beat 25-0. So we want to spread it out, and he's working on, after that, putting the coaches' rosters together, getting the information to the coaches with all the parents' phone numbers and emails, and then he's doing all the practice scheduling and then all the game scheduling, and then he'll be working closely with me with organizing umpires and being out there to make sure things are in place for the league nights.
Great. And I guess my next question is, how we're looking on projected revenues and expenses, with everything going on?
The revenues and expenses, it's double-edged sword, you know, the revenues and I don't wanna say it's a guess, but the whole thing is really just a guess. The only thing that I can control is expenditures and making sure that we stay balanced within the revenues and the expenditures. I looked at it last week, and last week was February, we didn't have March's numbers, so we had January's numbers, I'm sorry. So that was 5 months into it, let's see, September, October, November, December, January, 5 months, 8.3 or 8.6% of the year. So we were roughly 41 or 42% of the year going, and our expenditures, we were somewhere around 34% of the budget spent. So we're about -6% in our expenditures. Revenues are off, but we haven't hit that peak season. So I can tell you that maybe we hit 10% of our expected revenues. But it's kind of a road that's way off, but we haven't seen, like I said earlier, we didn't have all this action in February of last year. We didn't have all 9 fields available in March, April, May, and June, which is our peak time. And then even this year, we went with a light fall season just to make sure that we stayed out of the contractor's way to get the parking lots done, which we came about that close to being in their way with the start of this season. So we dodged the bullet. So the revenue side, towards the end of the summer, I think would be a more accurate projection for me to give you. But the expenses side, we're right where we need to be.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else for Mr. Crowley?
Thank you, Chair. I know we're gonna get to it, but on the resolution, it has the Village of Mermentau on the last page. Let me just make that correction.
What now?
Yes, yeah, also,
Action items.
yeah.
See, number a few miles down the road, we go with it.
So you get the copy and paste.
No problem.
Anything else for Mr.
Yes,
Kirk?
yes, just one. Just one thing.
Yes.
Mr. Mark?
Peter,
Yes, sir.
okay, you know what I'm about to ask you, so I know it's been out. The weekend,
Yes.
have we come to some type of, resource with that?
Yes, I've spoken to Brian and to Shane, and I've told them that, you know, if we have a heavy weekend out there, open up the restrooms.
Okay. The reason why, it depends on what you call heavy. There'll be times you might have 10, you know, what I'm trying to say is this. The resources in Crowley is split 4 ways, north, south, east, and west Crowley. Okay, and this is no judgment on you, but I can care less if there's 5 people out there. Fact of the matter is, we're trying to put something together here. And for those who are not knowing what we're talking about, it's opening up of the Martin Luther King Center during the weekend. So the restroom, since, later on we'll find out what's the situation with the restroom, but for right now, and I appreciate Peter, like I said, you know, you get my first applause every time. Everywhere I go, we're talking about it. And do right. What it is, we having a problem. You know, I mean, we got some handicapped people, we got some older, elderly people, we got kids. They don't need to be using no portalette, if y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay? Don't need none of it. Okay, I get it. Spur of the moment thing, this, that, that's fine. But I use the cliche and I'll say it again. Whether someone is in that Martin Luther King Center or the Rice Festival building, AC runs, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The lights are on.
Now,
Well, I mean, you understand.
I understand what you're saying.
Right. The bathrooms are readily available.
Yes.
Until, and like I said, we'll find out about more a little later on. But I do appreciate it. But I don't want it to be like, well, the only way they're gonna open up the restrooms if there's a big activity going on over there, because I've always used the term, you never know when kids don't wanna go play, or families gonna say, you know what, let's go out and have a little picnic. You follow what I'm doing?
Yes, sir.
So if they know for a fact that restrooms are open, and summer's coming up, it'll be a little cooling place for them to walk through or whatever, knowing that they wanna be in there shooting basketball, or what have you, be strictly for, I mean, if they want to, let them play there, that would be appreciable.
Mhm.
But that the bathrooms are available.
No one will be turned away.
Huh?
No one will be turned away.
There you go, because basically, until we get, and like I said, it's gonna be having a little bit on, we wanna make sure that everybody's accommodated.
The only issue that I can foresee where we would have to turn somebody away is if we have a rental.
Oh, no, that goes, wait, I wanna make that clear, if that building is being rented, okay, that's a dead issue right there, because now it belongs to someone else,
Yes, sir.
they have bought the time.
Other than that, no one will be turned away.
Right, so I mean, but, you know, those saying, if you tell me about it, I know about it, but if you show me, I definitely know about it.
Yes, sir.
So look, I just wanna appreciate you, and, like I said, keep doing what you're doing. I like the way you kept up with your expenditures and everything out there, that shows business. And, you know, we hear a lot of talk about that park.
Yes, sir.
You know, I told you this already.
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, like, I don't want, be the one to say it, but I think I was one of the first ones you came up to and said, hey, man, we need to get this.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate that. So look, keep doing what you're doing. I'll let the people know that this was, a Peter Curse thing. Okay?
Yes, sir.
He's opening up the restroom for everybody. Not a step one, or a bar thing. We don't want, you know, we'll let them know that the Crowley Recreation Department is taking care of business. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Peter Hirsch? Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Next up, City Engineer, Mr. Tim Mayer.
I have no action items, and you have my report with updates.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Mayor? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under action items, I'll read this to authorize a resolution declaring certain items, namely 160 lights and 16 poles and 64 sets of stadium seats removed from Miller Stadium, no longer needed for public use, and declaring the item surplus junk, authorizing the sale or donation of said items, and providing for other terms and conditions, authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents as may be necessary and proper for said transaction, and to provide for all matters relative thereto and in connection therewith. And I would offer this resolution with the correction, scratching out Village of Mermantoff and putting in City of Crowley.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cavell. Any discussion? Mr. Court?
Just like to, make a note that, Mayor, the, new amended ordinances require that any related documents pertaining to agenda items should be given to the council about 4:30 the prior day. And it'd be helpful if we get these documents, at least the day before.
Are you talking about the resolution?
Well, all documents that pertain to agenda items,
Okay.
if you would look into that.
Right,
That way we could have a-
Mr. Reagan was really bombarded and trying to get a lot of things, there's a lot going on, trying to get it.
I understand, but we do have an ordinance that
Yes.
says shall, so we're
Yes.
trying to comply.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And thankfully, Mr. Stringfellow found that mistake. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Discussion items, we went over that, so if there are no further questions or items to come before the Recreation Committee, then the committee will recess.
Thank you. Next, zoning and annexation, Mr. Martin, if you would.
Okay, let's see myself. We have, hold on,
We do.
yeah, we have three, okay. Okay, we do have a quorum. Okay, Tim, anything with zoning and annexation?
You have my report with updates. Item number 1 in my report under annexations is referring to action item number 2 on your zoning and annexation committee agenda. Page 24, Margaret.
Thank you.
That's all you got? Because he has to do number
Yeah,
one.
I'm referring it to the action item, we were gonna consider a resolution that Tom,
Okay,
Okay, do you have the resolution?
no, it's, something that Tom is supposed to.
Yeah.
Oh, she did, okay, so Tom.
Yeah.
Checked when it was in the city. Yeah.
That came in this afternoon.
Okay, is this, resolution you want to offer?
Number one, number two first. Number one first. This is number two.
Okay, you wanna go to number one? These are the two, you got two of them right here? All right,
No, I think
They're
it's
pertaining to
on
number two.
on your. Like, yeah, number one.
oh, okay, so we're not reading out the resolution?
No, he-
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Said-
Okay, let's see,
it's just to set a date for, item number one is to consider a a favorable recommendation of the planning commission.
Go ahead, read that one first.
okay, wait, hold up, now. Are we reading the action item?
Yes, sir, number
Okay.
one.
Okay, upon favorable recommendation of the City of Crowley Planning Commission to consider approving the application for a zoning variance to allow the construction of a storage building 300 square feet larger than permitted on property owned by Troy Burrell, located at 109 East Fourth Street in Crowley, Louisiana. I offer that.
I'll second.
I offer in second. All in favor? Discussion, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. We do have the owner here. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about this before we vote on it, but, and do we usually get a written, recommendation from the planning commission when we have this?
Do we get a written? I know they give,
No? we
yeah,
don't.
they usually give,
It's not in there.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Just checking.
I'll have it for you tomorrow.
Oh, okay, thank you.
okay. Okay, anybody else have any questions? All right, we're gonna go ahead and offer it, we offered it already, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, going to number two, to consider a resolution for the introduction of an ordinance to set a public hearing for an annexation of the mill property.
Yes, sir, you have the resolution in front of you. You cannot set a date now because you have to do it at full council. This, we brought it up at committee, so you would know about it. And then now we move it to full council, that way we can set a date at that point.
Okay. Okay, do we still vote on it, or what?
Yes, sir, just
Okay.
consider the resolution that you're moving it to full council.
Okay, that, we move this to our full council meeting. All in favor?
I'll second.
All right,
Offered by Mr. Martin, seconded by Mr. Reddy.
okay, all in favor? All right. Both have the same right? Motion carried. Okay, anything else to come before zoning and annexation? And recess.
Thank you for covering. Next is public safety, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mayor. Call to order the Public Safety Committee. We We have a forum present with, Mr. Stephen Primo being absent. On the reports, Chief of Police Jimmy Broussard, is unable to attend at the moment, and so we'll move on to number 2, Fire Chief Louis Crowley.
Good afternoon. On the report I gave y'all, we got a typo. It says January, I can take it off and put February, so that's my bad. But in February, we responded to 36 calls. Of those calls, we had 3 structure fires, 16 fire alarms, 2 grass fires, 2 hazmat calls, 1 vehicle accident, 2 public assists, and 1 mutual aid call for a structure fire on Conrad to help our district, 11. Our response time was 3 minutes and 35 seconds, and so far in 2022, we ran 72 calls. Any questions?
Are the repairs going on the vehicle, the trucks? You mentioned that it's always been a budget issue.
So, last month, I think I spent, I don't have the exact figure, but, we spent right at 10,000. And on Monday, I found out that service engine 21 needs to have the whole, we did last month, we did engine 20. And then I had some tires changed because the front end's being eat up. And, we gotta rebuild the front end again, so it's gonna be another $6,000. Service engine 21. Then I'm about to go through preventive maintenance. Last Tuesday, we had ladder test and area test, our yearly inspection. That was $1,800. And, preventive maintenance is coming up, and that's gonna be roughly $4,500 by the time we buy all the fuel filters, all filters, air filters, fuel, all, and labor to change all that. So,
Right, as you were mentioning, the front end parts, that's not a routine item that normally is in your budget versus routine maintenance, all changes and so forth.
Yeah.
So those things are not anticipated when you get your budget set for repairs.
no, that's gonna have to come out of that budget.
But it's not a routine expenditure that you encounter every year.
No, sir. No, sir. I think in that budget, the budget's 46,000.
That's what
I
Don,
think
that he
we
would,
got 16,000 left.
he went after that for the.
At 45 to 5,000, depending on how much the kingpins and all that is gonna be for the front end, that's gotta come off.
And how old is that particular truck?
That's gonna be the 15, 16-year-old truck.
Okay,
That's
so
the one you rode in yesterday.
right, the newer models, yeah.
That's the one you rode in yesterday.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Bud?
Any more questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Romero, I think we asked last week, we had talked about possibly, doing a rental for a fleet. Remember, we had talked about that probably a year ago. Did you ever find out any of that paperwork, or do you still have that?
The lease?
The lease,
So,
yes.
I did talk to, one, I don't remember, Sundell. And because of the fluctuation of the market on vehicles, they are not leasing anything.
Okay. That was the company that you had
That
contacted?
was Sundell.
Okay.
Um,
I just recently found that paperwork, I don't know.
Sid Morton has not got back with it,
Okay, okay,
but Sundell did get back with it, they're not leasing vehicles.
okay.
And the anticipated wait period to get a new truck built, was that correctly?
4 or 5 months ago, it was at 18 months. I I don't know what it is now.
You got any questions for Chief?
Yeah, this one. I
Uh,
guess you'll be one of about 1,000 chiefs in the state, but I'll probably ask the question, did you go check at the brickyard or what have you in Baton Rouge? They normally have, places, certain little cities or what have you, but then again, you find somebody else to jump it on.
You talking about state surplus or federal surplus?
Yeah.
They have no park.
You know,
They don't have any park.
okay, what about, on the other mayor's website?
I don't know anything about that.
Well, normally they have places that advertise on it, with the map and all. But I believe in the fact that what you just said earlier, might as well get it rebuilt. And hope that, once you get it rebuilt, how long do you think it'd be before, time to do it again? You had to rebuild it before, right?
The front end's never been rebuilt.
Oh, it never did, okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you had said,
Engine 20 was rebuilt last month.
oh, okay, I'm sorry, that's what I misunderstood you. Okay, thank you.
Kim?
Thank you, Chief. Can you just briefly go over some of the grants you found for, the fire department since you've been there? I'm gonna try to come fix your mic.
So, we've got the Act 20 grant that we purchased equipment. We've got the Act 140 grant, which is going to be, I think we're gonna talk about it. I think they're gonna talk about it in public buildings.
Thank you.
That was for 125. I worked with, the Katy Parish Fire Chiefs and worked with, Ashley LeBlanc at, the GOSEP office for Katy Parish. And we got a $23,000 grant to upgrade the communications, for the tone outs. Communication, we use the LWIN system, the state system, so we can talk, it's just to receive our calls. We having trouble with that. So we got that, and we got a $15,000 grant, I don't recall where. And we bought equipment with that. That's when I first made budget.
Sure.
So, that's probably about 5 or something grants that you participated in, I'm sorry. 4, okay. And about how much of your time did that take?
It depends on, now I did apply for, an AFG grant. October, November, I don't know when the deadline was, and I applied for $700,000 for fire truck. So if we were to be awarded that, we would need to come up with 15% of that. So I'll apply for that grant.
It depends on the grant.
It depends on how much time the grant takes. AFG grant, I had assistance.
And you have to watch those deadlines and all that.
Yes, ma'am. For the AFG, I had some assistance in writing the narrative, but I did all the legwork, getting the calls, getting all the paperwork together. And, I probably had 2 or 3 days worth of work in that. The Act 140 money, I would probably say 2 days. You know?
You would probably have more grants out there though if you had more time, probably.
I'm always looking for grants.
Yeah, yeah.
If I can get free money, I'm always.
Yeah,
looking for
but that's
grants.
probably a lot for you to do,
Yeah.
being our fire chief and everything. But, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
Chief, I had one request to ask you. With the time period required to buy a new truck, 18 months to 2 years, maybe longer now, have you looked into any companies that will take our existing fleet, bring them in, and total rehab them on those parts that are commonly wearing out, for instance, like the chassis and the engine, all 80-mile type, like big truck, but the rest of the components, are there any companies out there that will rehab existing trucks?
They do have companies that refurbish trucks, and you only save from buying a brand new one to completely refurbishing the truck, where you strip it completely down, sand everything, prime everything, repaint everything, but you're only looking at maybe a 20 to 25% savings, that's it. And then the problem is, your warranty ain't as good. You know what I mean? Because I thought about doing that, because like we talked, I wanna take the service engine and the rescue and combine that to a squad. But I was thinking about taking one that we got now, putting a new body on it, dropping a new engine, because I don't need a new pump, okay? To rebuild a single stage pump is about $20,000. To rebuild a dual stage pump, and we got 2 single stage and 2 dual stages. To rebuild a dual stage pump, you're looking at about $25,000 to $27,000. So I thought about converting one of our old engines, taking the body off, putting a new body on, but I'm only saving 20%. You know, so.
Okay. Ask that question and it's answered. Thank you so much. Any other questions for Chief Romero? Thank you, Chief.
Thank y'all.
Next we'll move to City Inspector Tony Duhan, who isn't present. He did email me his report today at 1:40 p.m., which I'll read. Planning and zoning report, quantity 2, Department of Health reviews, 37 permits issued, consisting of 22 electrical, 3 gas, 6 demolition, 1 excavation, 3 building permits, and 2 signs, with 3 commercial plan reviews. Under code enforcement, 11 warning violations and 5 citations. Stormwater annual report completed. Animal control, dogs taken in 12, cats taken in 8, with 1 citation. Approximately 130 phone calls. Contact us if any further information is needed. Respectfully, Tony Duhan. Mayor, I asked Mr. Duhan, as I previously did, to please indicate the address and location of the properties that relate to code enforcement, warnings, citations, and permits for demolitions. That way we have a track of knowing, which properties are in the system or in the process. So when constituents call, we can advise them what's already been done. Kind of hard to do without having any detail. And again, if we can get this, within about 4:30 the prior day, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. On the beer and liquor licenses, we have 1 renewal of Big Daddy 2020 Incorporated DBA Cajun Mart, located at 109 Southeastern Avenue, for a 2022 Class B package liquor permit. I so move. Seconded. Discussion. Chief Broussard isn't here, but I do have a copy of the application, and it is signed by the city inspector, the clerk, and also Chief Broussard for this particular item. Ms. McFell.
Thank you, Chair. Do we know if they, said they were not selling alcohol during this period?
This was the location we had approved last month, where they only applied for a beer permit.
Oh, okay.
And they indicated at that time that Chief did that they had not been selling the hard liquor. And I did drive by and saw that they had all that they recovered
Okay.
to verify that. Mayor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, that's correct. Remember the last meeting, they only had a bid permit.
Yes. Yes. Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Under action items, recommending a resolution of the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Crowley, located in Paris, Louisiana, ordering and issuing a rule to show cause to set a public hearing for condemnation of property situated on lot 4 of block 27 of the city of Crowley, said property being located on West First Street between North Avenues A and B, owned by Cassandra Davis, AKA Cassandra Davis London. And I so move. Seconded by Alderwoman Kim Stringfellow. Discussion?
Got a question.
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Martin.
What's the address on that?
It doesn't have an address, it's just West First Street located between North Avenue.
What about it? Oh, that house been rehab, man. I know, cause I'm the one that done. Why would it be, condemned?
Well, it's just the rule of the show cause, it's just a process unless somebody did not turn it in to us. That was rehab, is that what you said?
Yes.
So you did it yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I helped out with rehabbing the house.
Great, awesome, but we're gonna still follow our procedure, and then we go back to full council. This is only to move to full council, but if you do have all of the information of how it's been rehabbed and it's been inspected and brought up to date and up to go, that's great, that's awesome.
I mean,
Was a building permit issued, or,
what's that?
you said it's rehab, meaning
Well, I
that-
mean, it fixed walls and then whatever, we just got some windows put in.
Okay.
Which my house, yeah.
That's fine, I mean, we'll have, if you can get us all that information by next Wednesday and get with Tony
Yeah.
and get it inspected or whatever, that's great, awesome.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
I'm gonna say a name on that.
So we have,
All it is just to move it to full council, that's all it is.
Okay.
and we can have further discussion on this as far as, what's been done at full council.
Yeah, I mean, that's, they'll work on the outside, but other than that, I mean, the house is in real good shape.
Right. But again, this is just to move to full council, we certainly have, we're not approving or at this time, other than we should move to full council.
Okay.
So again, all in favor? Are those in favor?
I'm
Any
gonna go
opposed?
ahead, I'm gonna abstain from it.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point it out to Mr. Martin that this is also just to move to full council, and this is also just to set a date. So you have another month before you even look at public hearing. So you have plenty of time to be able to bring forth the,
Oh, okay,
whatever
she'll
you need.
get everything together.
Yes, sir.
All right.
He's a contractor. Oh, what did he do? What did he have? He abstained?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear it.
All right, so for those in favor, include myself, Alderwoman Kim Stringfellow, and Alderman Woodridge. Okay, thank you. And motion carries. Some discussion items. An update on administrative hearing officer pursuant to ordinance 1516 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Crowley. Mayor Monson engaged attorney at law John F. Creighton as an administrative hearing officer, and a letter of engagement has been executed by the mayor and Mr. Creighton. Mr. Creighton will proceed to set up his administrative hearing office and court. Mayor, could you?
That is correct, and we're waiting on his response. We sent him an email on Friday, and we're waiting on his response for us to get moving.
So we're ready to hear from Mr. Creighton as far as timelines, when.
That is correct. That is correct. All the agreement has been done and has been sent to Mr. Creighton, and he's reviewing it. And once we hear from him, then we can move.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that item? Next, we'll move to, per request of Police Chief Broussard, closure of Grady Coulard, West 7th Street near the intersection of Barkell Thomas and Railway Crossing to aid police and crime prevention. Chief had asked that be put on the agenda. He isn't here to elaborate, and I guess we'll just wait till the full council meeting if you wish to discuss that further. Mr. Rivera.
I think, Chief Romero has.
Mr. Romero, maybe you state almost the same thing. I'm gonna say I'm very concerned about our safety over there.
So I will not be here next Wednesday for council because I've always, retirement meeting, because, I serve on the firefighter retirement on the state level, and that's our meeting. But I did meet with my command staff, and we discussed this, we even went out there and looked. The problem is, and I don't know when it was, so Sixth and Seventh and Eighth have already been closed. So, by closing Seventh, that only gives us Northern to go around, or Hutchinson. And I asked my three DCs, in the last year, how many times have y'all used this for an emergency? And Ricky Hunt told me approximately 10 to 11 times. Bob couldn't give me a number, and Mike Reshorting, but we all know we use it over and over and over. So my recommendation for fire protection and for fire safety would be not to shut this down. And that's my recommendation.
Sure, and certainly I think that Chief Broussard indicated he needed also to get with you to make that final determination on his part.
Well, Chief Broussard did talk to me,
Okay.
and Chief Broussard said, well, if we don't shut this one down, maybe looking at shutting another one. Well, I need to go look at that location, because if we shut that down, I gotta look at the layout, and if we shut the particular area down, I gotta look where the hydrants at, because then the hydrant might be 1,000 feet from the structure,
Yes.
because we gotta go a different route. So it's just not, it's not as easy to just shut the street down, because if you, 1,000 feet from a hydrant, that affects those people's fire rate,
Yes.
because we don't have drop tanks.
And of course, your response time.
And our response time, yes.
Speaking of fire hydrants, why are some of the hydrants throughout the city covered with black plastic wrap?
Where, which one?
Hutchinson Avenue and Avenue J, East Hutchinson. It's that Avenue J.
The only reason why we cover would be out of service,
And this,
and law code never let us know that hydrant's out of service.
because I know that there are two within my ward that I've seen, and I'll get those locations.
If you get those locations, then I can check with Ben, but as far as I know, we don't have any hydrants out of service.
Okay. Thank you. Next, number 3, replace 30 miles an hour speed limit signs with 25 miles an hour signs
Right,
along
right,
South, I'm
right.
sorry, Step.
I was holding my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, listen. On the street closure. I'm sorry. Now, Chief, is that the one by the three-way?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know the problems that's out there? With crime and everything? Okay, well, good, okay. Listen, the families on that road can't sleep at night. They run that three-way stop sign like it's not even there, okay? Chief, we're talking about the stop sign.
Oh, okay.
For the record, that Chief Broussard is here.
Okay. Listen, nobody has peace over there. And if somebody wants to do anything illegal, all they got to do is get in there and take that road, and you know they're coming out there like a bat out of hell, and they ain't stopping for nobody. Okay? What we was hoping for was that road be closed, because just imagine, kids are going to and from Westwood, to and from the recreation department, okay? That's a blind side road. If somebody, let's just say, if there's something going on where the police department is in pursuit of somebody, they ain't stopping and they ain't looking to see who's there, okay? I understand what you're saying about the timing or whatever, but we gotta think about the fact that there's kids there, okay? I understand everything that you were saying, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, that road was closed before. All right, for years and years, that road was closed. When the houses were built, they opened up the road so they could get the big trucks to and from, okay, with the dirt and everything. Chief, I think he was just on the force at that time, I don't think he was. So, that's the reason why it needs to be closed.
And Mr. Warren, like I said, my recommendation from the fire department side, looking at it as fire protection, looking at it as fire safety issues. If we shut that road down, that means we have to go to Hutchinson, or we gotta go to Northern to cross the tracks. That's why my recommendation was not to close it. Y'all the council, you know, I'm just giving you my professional opinion.
Well, what you mean you gotta go to Northern? You just gotta go one block down.
That's three blocks.
No.
You're not talking about the same road.
So, Marcel Thomas runs parallel with the railroad track.
Right,
Brady Poulard runs east and west off of Marcel Thomas.
right.
And it kind of does a little dog leg, not much, but a little dog leg to cross over on Seventh. Y'all wanna cross the 7th Street,
No.
that's what this says.
No, it's not the Seventh Street. I mean,
It says, the closure of Brady Poulard West 7 near the intersection of Marcel Thomas and the railway crossing to aid police and crime prevention.
so that's not the three-way stop then.
That's where the three-way stop is at.
That's what's on the discussion on Mr. Martin.
So in other words, when you're coming down Seventh Street, you gotta make a right.
Yeah.
To go into Westwood.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I'm just saying, so the road you're talking about is, once you make that right, you one block down and you make a left to go into the subdivision.
This,
My recommendation as the fire chief of the city of Crowley is not to make the closure of 7th at the railroad crossing at Marcel Thomas and Brady Poulard. That's what's on the agenda. That's what I talked to my command staff about. Now, I don't know what road you talking about.
That's the same road I'm talking about. That same one we're talking about, Chief?
My request was actually what you were talking about,
Right.
that very end of,
It's a three-way stop.
yeah, when you come out of the new houses
But 7th Street is totally.
to Marcel Thomas. Yes, now my request was that,
The
that
three-way
stop
stop.
right there, yeah.
That's at the end, but that's gonna be on the east side of the new subdivision.
Yeah.
So you're talking about
Yeah.
JD Mill?
JD Mill,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, that's what I told you, chief.
yeah.
I'll have to go look, and if we close that, I'll have to see where the hydrants are laid out to make sure that,
Cause you're only gonna get Northern and Hutchinson to get to the new housing. And it's the only way you got in there.
Actually, you got,
capital, you got capital?
yeah, you got Capitol, you got,
But it's still.
right, yeah.
It's
You
different.
got, John F. Kennedy, so you got two.
Yeah.
Two or three, yeah.
Mr. Chair,
yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Are we talking about the body smith?
Yes, sir.
I would highly recommend, that you get with Mr. Reagan on this issue along with the chief, and get some input from Mr. Reagan on this subdivision, because I think there might be some other provisions that might be within our means of reach, or can't reach. I would just recommend that.
Sure, and again, this is, request from chief, I'm happy to accommodate it.
Right, the request basically comes as we have seen that has been an exit point for many of, the shooters that we've had, especially those around the Bobby Smith subdivision. That if we can close that point off that we were talking about, there is no cameras there, there's one house that may even be on the cab, list, because I know it's not, it's not inhabited. And that's, our purpose was just to close that road off, so it's not an exit for them. That's the only place that they can exit where there's not cameras. If they go off of John F. Kennedy, they either have the VOTEC or they have Ross Elementary. If they come out the other way, they have the sheriff's department and their cameras. That's the only road that does not have any cameras.
And to make sure that our agenda item is correct, Brady Poulard, when you cross heading east, or across Marcel Thomas, that, across the railroad tracks, that puts you on West 7th Street. If you look at the city map,
Yes.
I want to make sure that, you know, we're talking about the same trail. For instance, if you leave West Hutchinson heading,
North.
north, the first turn to cross the railroad.
First right is West Seventh. That's not it, it's the left.
That's up on Marcel Thomas.
Right.
And Bobby's, and where Bobby's subdivision is.
Right, that's what I'm just trying to.
When I spoke with Captain Perry, he looked at it, that's what he gave me. It's but it's the exit to the Bobby Smith subdivision.
You're going over the track and that's Seventh Street, you gotta take the right to get to the
Right.
three-way stop sign for the Bobby Smith subdivision. So
We'll get
you're
that
not going to
clarified.
Seventh Street.
Yeah.
Instead of just going in a circle, instead of just going in a circle, why don't y'all get your butt ducks in a row? Then when y'all have your stuff together, bring it to the council. Instead of just open discussion about a lot of things nobody really is understanding one from the other. But I would take the suggestion that the two chiefs get together, chair get together, and whoever, you know, the parties from, Representative Ward 3, and then everybody's on the same page. So it seems like we've got 5 different people on 5 different pages, and nothing's gonna, we can discuss till 10 o'clock at night, but nothing's getting done. So I'd say, have some substance before you come to the council, and then you can discuss things of substance and move forward with something.
Patrol captain gave me this location, I submitted a map to verify, so that was a, location given to me. If that's not correct, we will look into it.
But that's what was given me as well by Captain Perry.
Yes. But again, we'll get together. We can look further. Next,
And Mr. Chair, that's why I was recommending it, get with Mr. Reagan, that way you could get with the legal side issues of abandonment or closing the street, and if you can or you can't.
sure, we have to include this rate. See what times he has available, this week and next. Number 3, replace 30-mile-per-hour speed limit signs with 25-mile-an-hour signs along South Parkson Avenue from intersection of Mill Street to Pine Street pursuant to section 1421A3 of the ordinance. Currently, there are 30 miles an hour signs posted, and the ordinance requires that area be 25 miles per hour.
And it has been corrected since then, since you
Yes,
brought it
that's
to my
sure.
attention, yeah, and I appreciate that. And we are looking at trying to get as soon as we can to some other ones.
Okay.
That will take care of your number 4 as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, I appreciate that. Update on city's efforts to replace remainder of signs identifying city streets, and Mayor, we spoke about that too.
Yes, sir, I can point it out again if you'd like. I had mentioned that earlier, months ago during, our procurement process and during our process of, so what we're doing is to make it fair for everyone in the city of Crowley. We're just not gonna hit and miss. We're gonna start in the center of the city at North, or at Parkinson, whether it's south or north. And we're gonna start from the most northern boundaries to the most southern boundaries. And we're gonna go North Parkinson, I'm giving you an example. What we did at the beginning, we did North Parkinson, North Avenue G, North Avenue F. And then we did Hutchinson Avenue. Then we did Historic District, just to knock those out the way real quick. And then we're gonna start moving east and west. We're gonna take 2 streets at a time, order so many, I don't wanna get a bunch, I don't wanna damage them. We're gonna start, that's our map. And the street department's already familiar with it, and that's how we're gonna operate. And we're gonna continue doing it like until we get it completed, and once we reach the perimeter of the city limits, both east, west, and north and south.
Great, that's exactly what the public said they're going to find out. Thank you, Mayor. Number 6, request by Mr. Rich Hughes to discuss his questions submitted in writing during last month's committee meeting and furnish to the mayor for a response.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I ended in 3 questions to you about a month ago. Actually wanted a response within a week, but I figured I'd just hold off for hopefully getting an answer. Just to refresh everyone's memory, I made copies of those same questions. Thank you. And this is pertaining to the warehouse what used to be a warehouse on the 500 block of South Lower.
Thank you. I have one thing.
At the time, I had requested answers to these 3 questions in writing, and I'm here to ask you if we have received that.
And I'll have to defer you to the mayor to answer those, because I have not been provided with the answers as a city now.
And I do have it. And I will have an answer for you that will cover all 3 questions. According to our code enforcement, this business is in compliance with building permits and doing repairs. And if you have any other questions.
These are pretty specific questions, that's a pretty blatant,
Well, he's in-
ambiguous answer.
Um,
I mean, for instance, we had a gentleman that came here last month, Mr. Wilson, from West Crowley, an older gentleman. He received a permit for demolition of his property in June. He has been continually taking things down on that, and his permit was expired, and he was forced to get a new permit, even though it was a Wednesday that he stood in front of everyone, and he already had plans of knocking it down on Saturday. I don't see the fairness of forcing an elderly gentleman from West Crowley to have to go through the whole process all over again, where this project has been a year and 9 months since it was damaged, almost a year since it was brought to the owner's attention, and had continually fallen down, and basically that's the only thing that's been done is removal of the property that's been fallen down. We actually had to call the fire department out there to have the electricity turned off because it was a fire hazard. And this thing remains as a hazard to all the residents in that area. I'm not the only person complaining about this. Trust me, you can go on social media and read about it. You can go on Levy Park site and read about it.
I'm another one that agrees with this guy.
Anyway, and I'm not trying to make an issue out of it, but I've been working on this thing for over a year now to try to get something done for the sake of the community. And I don't understand, well, I do understand. He has friends in City Hall, but the man, Mr. Wilson, didn't. Mr. Wilson has fines, $500 in fines and $50 that he had to reapply for his permit. I don't see the fairness in any of this,
Okay.
besides the danger of the community.
All right, so I understand what you're saying, and I don't agree with your opinion. However, that is your perception that you're creating. But as far as my code enforcement office has said that he is in compliance, he's in compliance.
Okay, so has he handed in plans for the repair?
So if you have any other questions,
There's that guy
if you
there.
have any other questions, Mr. Hughes, I would suggest that you contact our code enforcement.
And see, here lies in the problem. When I do that, they're not going to respond to me. I'm doing it in public because I want a response, and these people want a response.
And I gave you a response.
You
He is in
didn't
compliance.
answer the questions on this.
Yes, I
You
did.
just gave me an
I've
ambiguous
answered
answer.
your question. Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Anyway, Mr. Core, this is your committee. If you could go get the code enforcement if you have to, because they're not gonna respond. Okay, but they might respond to you. And figure out how $60,000 repair permit is legit for a building like that, where it's over 50% destroyed.
So, I'll be happy to speak to Mr. Moore, which I have in the past, and, again, if one information.
If you can help us out, we appreciate it.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stringfellow?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make a comment. Perhaps we could get, I think the discrepancy is, Mayor, is that there's a question of different rules for different people. If perhaps we could get,
No, ma'am, I'm gonna disagree with that comment right away.
no, I just
Not
said
different
there's a
rules for different people.
perception. I said there was a perception. So, if perhaps we could get maybe a checklist or a workflow list of the rules and, just how these items come up.
you'll give the code enforcement, maybe he can assist you, but code enforcement has a lot more authority than you might realize. And, but anyway.
I'm just trying to help. you.
Sure, absolutely, and I appreciate it.
Yeah,
But, a lot of people trying to help.
yeah.
But, code enforcement does a very good job. I'm very proud of them. They work hard. And, I know some people may not agree with their decisions sometimes. Some people may not want to hear what they have to say sometimes. But, you know, they are doing their job by the law, and they are trying to follow the law.
Right, I understand.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, my name's
Sir.
Joey Broussard, I live in that neighborhood. I can see that you're upset about this.
No, sir, I'm not.
It seems like you are, you're
No,
very
sir, I'm not
agitated
upset.
with this gentleman talking about this building. We all see it, sir. I live in this neighborhood. How would you like to look at half of a building every morning, sir? With all these people coming to the city, like the recreation guy was talking about, all these people, you could let them drive by that half building? That's an eyesore, sir? Are you serious? You should be ashamed of yourself, sir, ordinance or not. Shame on you for allowing this to happen and all these dilapidated houses in my neighborhood, sir. I just moved here a year ago, and I'm ashamed to live here. Ashamed.
Well, Mr. Broussard, I do, understand.
I don't want to hear nothing you have to say.
Oh.
You know what? Because I don't
Well, thank
believe in
you.
anything that you're saying.
Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Broussard.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, we appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard. Next, we'll,
If I may,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, yes, I would like to respond to Mr. Broussard's comment. That those houses have been here for more than 30 or 40 years, 20 for sure, 25 years. This is before my administration, and we are working on it along with CAF, and we are trying to get these torn down. So, anyway, I just wanted to let Mr. Broussard know that.
thank you, Mayor. Mr. Wilbur?
I'm gonna make this comment and then we're gonna close the discussion. For the last year and a half, the only houses I see getting torn down or coming for condemnation is Third Ward. I ain't seen one from South County, East County, or North County.
CAF?
Oh yeah, you wanna blame it on the
No,
CAF?
no, I'm not
But
blaming
that's
it on
code
Mr.
enforcement.
Woodward, no, Mr. Woodward, I'm not blaming it on
Well, you
anybody.
just throwed out CAF, Denham. Why not a CAF?
Because they are assisting us and to follow the direction, and we're trying to follow their direction as
So we
well.
ain't got nothing on Wayne Daily list
Yeah,
yet.
I apologize, Mr. Chair, I don't mean to get out of order.
I mean-
Take the floor. Mr. Bell?
Yes, I'll respond. In all fairness, Mr. Overage, there were times when Mr. Martin even complained that properties that he had from Ward 3 hadn't been dealt with. And so now even the complaint that they're actually being dealt with, I think that.
No, I'm not complaining. That's good, that's straight. I'm not complaining. I said if you go back to the records, the only house that's getting torn down is Third Ward.
It's not the only houses.
Listen, man,
What house got torn down in South Carolina?
Well, let's go back. We have, what, 20-something houses already this year, past year that the city has condemned. I have to go back and.
They all in West Carolina, I promise you that.
Well, if that's the case, they're still in.
If that's not even, if first, I'm asking why it's code enforcement, it don't have nothing to do with CAF. Code
No,
enforcement
I didn't
is
mention
part
that
of,
either.
code enforcement is part of the city. They work for the mayor. So why ain't no houses coming up from code enforcement on any other section in Crowley? That's all my answer is. I just want to answer.
So you want to make sure there's an equal amount of houses?
If one gets torn down in Third Ward, another one should get torn down in South Crowley, just to be fair. There's a lot in South Crowley need to be torn down.
That may be your definition of equality, that's not how it
Jim,
works.
let's not get off the agenda, if you will.
You want to tell us to do that too?
I'd like to move on since, we certainly discussed that. Oh, Mark.
listen. You know, enough is enough, man. Okay? We have a problem here that nobody wants to,
Admit,
well, not only admit, but the fact of the matter is, code enforcement falls under the mayor. We get complaints all the time about this, that, and the other. And I know myself, I have to tell people, listen, we're legislators, we're not administrators, okay? code enforcement got to fall underneath the mayor. Now, why Tony is not here tonight, I have no idea. But let's face it, it's been a lot of years since he's been here. Now, listen, everybody here has to understand something. I understand what Byron's saying, I understand what Cal's saying, I understand what Mr. Hughes is saying. But I witnessed that building over there, man. You know, I witnessed that building. And the bottom line here is that we're not trying to put blame on anybody, but if that's your job, who else gonna do it? You know? Now, this gentleman just got up there and he just said that he didn't want to hear, you know, and I understand where he's coming from. You know, enough is enough, man. Every department head is here at every meeting, except code enforcement. We are bombarded with all types of questions, and we can't answer because we don't know what the heck is going on. Okay? Now, here we are right now, and I'm going to say it like it is. It's not us that should be getting hot under the collar, right? But he makes it because we only represent who we represent, and that's the people out there. Every time we look like when it comes down to court enforcement, the whole meeting gets haywire. Everybody gets blaming this one and blaming that and the other. But the fact of the matter is, Mayor, it falls on you because you're the only one that controls this. You know? We don't control what Tony does. And I hate to keep using his name, I'll use the code enforcement. I apologize for that. Because what it does, it keeps everybody afraid to reach out to other people and ask the question. Why it's not being done? Okay? Something's not right here, man. Every department head comes in front of this council, every committee meeting. They get up there, they say what's going on, what they need, and whatever. We can't answer the questions that's being asked about these houses or whatever, because we don't know. Anybody got an email from anybody or text from anybody or code enforcement and say, okay, this is what I want y'all to do, this is what's going on? Okay? One time I remember we had a letter, and I looked at Brad, and I have to tell you, Brad, I looked at you like you was crazy. I'm saying to myself, you reading the letter that this man said he done this, that, and the other, but there's no substance behind it. He gave you a letter to read, okay? And don't get me wrong, man, I mean, I've done it for people under utilities. I understand that. But now you got the whole council being looked at as y'all not doing y'all damn job. This is not our job, you know? Our job is to legislate. That's what we do. And I'm sorry for staring at you and you, but y'all two are the two that's, we can't make him do anything. We can't make him do his job, okay?
I understand.
We still don't know about this lawyer, judge or whatever happened with that? Don't this man have a citation book?
Yeah, we do have that administrative hearing judge in the works now.
Still in the works.
The citation book was with code enforcement. And Steph, I agree, code enforcement is a definite hot topic. Mayor, we definitely need to have Mr. Duhon present at these meetings. You know, we take the heat from the public, want to know what's going on. You know, we tell them, you know, we've been told this, we've been told that. But I think Mr. Duhon needs to be here. Is it an easy job for him? Absolutely not. But if he signed up for it, and it's a difficult decision that has to be made on his part, and so be it. Just like a police officer has to give someone a citation. You know, we have to deal with the problems at hand, and I think that the citizens want answers, not from us saying what Mr. Duhon said, but having him answer the questions. And I'll leave it with that. We move on to number 7, request from Mrs. Jonah Shindale to express her concerns regarding the recent development of a trailer park located near 600 block of East Northern Avenue, and to obtain information from the city's code enforcement officer about current use of the property and issuance of permit. There's Is Shadell present? She's not, however, this is a concern that, we have regarding, code enforcement and the issuance of a permit. She asked, why this trail park is being allowed to, exist, when it has been, non-existent for, well over a year. That was her concern. Mr. Bell.
The trailer park has never not been in existence. It's always been in existence. What happened, the owner actually cleaned it up, so fresher looking, trailers can actually be moved in. He's always had a license, he's always had a permanent, license to have a trailer park there.
And where,
So I don't know where
where do you get your information
A
from?
simple call, like I said, be prepared for you come to me, a simple call to code enforcement. They do answer your calls, they do, may not answer it right then and there, but you ask them a question, and eventually get back. You can use an email, and they'll send you information.
You see,
In fact, when I saw this, I was like, I'm wondering why, because there's a lot of fiasco around here. It's like it's choreographed play going on, that, the code enforcement, because they're not gonna be here, is an easy target. But yet, when you have an answer to the question that you've been asked, why bring it to a meeting?
because the public wants to know,
No, Ms. Shindell wanted to know.
as well as others.
So you make a phone call, and, well, you know what, that's our job. If you can't handle disseminating information on your own, then don't sign up for the job.
Well, it's
Okay,
exactly,
so-
so Mr. Duhon should be here to answer for the job.
You're not his boss. The
That's
thing
exactly
is,
right.
my point is to answer this question, okay? The gas park property is still part of, an ongoing, business entity that has an occupational license, and there's nothing new or old about it, other than he's actually cleaning it up.
How long has it been vacant of tenants?
While he was cleaning it up, yes.
How long was that?
Oh, I don't know.
You know that the property was sold,
Yes, I do.
but you don't know about it. Those are questions that for the total.
For what purpose? For what purpose?
Mr. Bell, I'm not going to refuse.
No, because you have no argument. Thank you. Like usual.
Thank you. We don't all, Mr. Cabell, we don't all have time to go by City Hall before these meetings and have a powwow.
Oh, but yet you have time to do everything else.
No, some of us have jobs, we don't have time to go to City
I
Hall
don't even
before the
live, I don't even
meetings.
work here, so if I have time to do that, you
You
should.
come out of City Hall for these meetings, every meeting we have, and we don't all have time to do that, nor do we have the same welcome that you do at City Hall, so.
As my mother said, you get more flies with honey than you do with honey. Yes, I was. Just like you were.
Mr. Mayor, may I be identified?
Let Brad come in.
Mr. Corder,
Regarding, agenda item number 7,
code enforcement.
go ahead. And remember,
Mr.
I-
Mayor. Mr. Mayor,
Oh, ma'am, go ahead. I'm reading, I'm sorry.
regarding all of this, I object to what, the gentleman over here just said, that it seems orchestrated, because I don't think it has been orchestrated. Today, we received notice that 3, houses that have been condemned. I don't know what part of town barn, but 3 have been condemned. I've asked previously, as an independent person, not Tony Duyon, being you weren't interested in blight, I don't know how you have an opinion.
I actually ran on blight.
Sir,
Actually, I am very interested in blight.
you didn't want to hear about it. And I'm not talking to you, I'm speaking to the mayor. So I had previously asked at one time, as an independent person, if maybe I could go in and track what CAB had submitted to code enforcement, just to reiterate that what we submitted and code enforcement had, we were on the same page. Then maybe everyone would feel that everything's okay. The one Steph is worried about, that came up earlier, I can't remember the name. Sandra,
Cassandra Davis.
Cassandra.
Ms. Cassandra Davis.
That was one of your problem children. So that's why it's that long ago. And, it's just come up, and it may have been taken care of a long time ago. And so that may be why.
Well, but what I don't understand is this, since you brought that up.
Mike.
What exactly do he do to condemn a home?
There's a lot.
Because all he had to do was open up that front door. She had people working in there, I mean,
I don't wanna bring it back up, Steph, all I'm saying
No,
is,
but what I'm saying,
it came back up because it was a problem child from a long time ago, and you may have fixed it, and it was a problem child that came back up. So you may have fixed it a long time ago, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say right here.
It's not on the list, is what I'm saying, it's possible, it's not on the list.
Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, may I?
Mr. Chair, there's a number of things that could have happened here, like Ms. Stone was saying. It could have also been at the appointed attorney's office. It could have been a number of things being held.
It's old.
Looking for succession to be open or closed. There's a number of things. All we're doing is just continuing the process, and we have had, just in the very recent, Mr. Martin and Mr. Woodward, in the very recent, there were a couple of houses that we also had on a condemnation list, right? And they were either torn down, they were repaired, or something has happened, and they came and they purchased repair permits or whatever it may be. Right, so they're not in condemnation anymore.
And that's what they're doing, we're going through those old
That's what
lists.
this is, what Ms. Cassandra Davis. So it's that list, but we have to follow the process, because if I kill it right now, and something happens, and it doesn't go out, and it doesn't become effective, well, guess what, we've gotta start all over again, it's gonna take 3 more months again. But you continue the process, and all of a sudden, you say, hey, Mayor, or whoever it may be, look, Tony, look, if you could come inspect this, it's up to code, it's up to par, everything's great, we're done, it's over with. And it's end of condemnation, and we don't even have to bring it up at full council.
Yeah, but that's why I have a problem with that right here, because basically, okay, I watched, the guys work inside there, I even, even help them out.
Again, I asked a question earlier,
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you,
That's
Mr.
okay,
Martin.
go ahead.
Again, I asked a question earlier. Yes, it could drive by, but if anybody did any repairs or any tear downs or any part of a condemnation, did anybody go by City Hall and apply for a permit?
Well, I'll get with her on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, still.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, what I'm asking is, what I asked before, would it be possible that you would allow me to do like an audit of what we have submitted and what is there already before the hearing officer is seated, so we're on the same page, and maybe everyone will settle down?
Let's do this. We got the hearing administrator rolling, right?
Yes,
So let's get that rolling, let's get that finished, and I'm hoping this is gonna be in the next 2 weeks.
right.
It's gonna be done. Then, way back when, we asked for a list of all of the houses. Here's what I was gonna do, and I think
We submitted it to you.
you did, I'm sorry. Look, I've been trying to get up to date, we've been busy this week, and I've even mentioned this to Mr. Mayor. So what our department will do is we'll get that list that you have on all of these houses that you're making recommendations. So we'll take that list, and when we fit the time in during the day, and we can, we'll find time. We'll go and look at these houses. Some of these houses, you know what, you might have 9 different people to give you an opinion on what they think. I wanna get what code enforcement thinks, if it's structurally sound, if it needs to come down, or if it doesn't need to come down, it could be repaired. Then we could give you that list that we think, remember, Mr. Baker, I spoke to you about that? And that we could give you that list, and then all of a sudden, we might have 100 houses who could be repairable, very simple. And then we'll give you that list.
And what we'd like to know from CAB's standpoint is the ones we've submitted to you,
Okay.
what stage they're in.
Got it.
And then we're on the same page,
Yes,
okay?
yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. Item number 8, Gretchen Young requesting time to discuss an illegal mechanic shop in neighborhood. I'd like to recognize Mrs. Young, I think she's present.
Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Rachel Young, just like Mr. Brad said, Mr. Moore. I just want to just say hello to the mayor, with respect to you, the councilman, and all those who are here. Much attention, needs to be given to, my neighborhood. I stay at 1608 Lily Johnson, and it's been a blight, it's been just a problem for years and years. We have dilapidated, like I say, burned out, abandoned houses in our neighborhood. But the one thing I came here to talk about is the auto mechanic, in my neighborhood. I stay here, let's break it down to you, I stay at the auto mechanic, whoever he wants to be, stays on the corner. I stay maybe, you can go 2 feet, 3 feet away with a fence in between. The person gets cars from everywhere, parks them all over the neighborhood, takes out motors. I'm just telling you all the things before I tell you what I've called many times to Mr. Tony. I talked to chief, I've talked to police, I've talked to my alderman, I've talked to a whole lot of people, even Mr. Back here, Mr. Chad. I'm talking. It needs to stop. Whatever, this man takes out motors, the children walking by, the whole morning, fire can break out. People that comes to there to get their car work done, they're parking, but we can't even get out. We stay on the dead end streets. They're parking, they're putting their cars, you can't get out, we gotta almost fight with them to even get out of our driveway. I'm asking, and I'm pleading tonight, that everyone, that's here, that would hear me out, and it would help us out in the wood. There were citations that needed to be given to this person that's on the corner. Give out the citations. Don't tap them on the back. Don't say, man, you can do whatever you want to do because you own the house now. No, I need some help back there. If the motors or whatever can, a fire can break out, whatever, working on cars illegally, anything can happen back there. A dead-end street, I stay right next door to it, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the people that's around there, that he's working on the cars about. I'm afraid of him blocking the roads and I cannot get out. I'm afraid of fire. I'm afraid of this explosions because it's too close. Something needs to be done, and needs to be done now, and quickly done before something escalates. I'm here, and it's like they say nobody knows about in West Crowley, but I'm here tonight to represent my neighborhood. It's just going on too long. I'm really tired of it. I want the citations done. If it's not a citation, it's a warrant. After the warrant, okay, go back and see what's going on. If the cars parked there all over the neighborhood, if it's motors out there, if it's all on the ground, if it's whatever it is, come back around the corner. Come back the next week, Mr. Tony, or whoever it is. Come back around the next week. Check it out and say, well, look, this is not being done. Just issue the warrant. After the warrant, put the citation out. And that would make a whole lot of difference. This would give these people, look, this is going to be done. And it don't have to, between us and them, it has been fighting because of what's been going on. But take it off of me. Take it off my shoulders, if you can feel it that way. Take it off of my shoulders and go out and just do the citations. Give it over and over. Arrest them, whatever it takes to be done. I need it to be done. Because there are 2 fights that went on because of this mess here. And I'm really tired. I've been going there for years and years. Clean up our neighborhoods. It's an eyesore, the appreciation of our properties going down, and it's very dangerous. So that's my plea. And I'm hoping that everybody will work together and help us out as well.
Mr. Gordon, yes, ma'am. This young man, I've been out there and see the problem, and it's not just in your area, it's several properties in the area.
That's right.
Mayor?
Yes. Thank you for coming, and I do appreciate you coming in.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Duyon and Mr. Collins both informed me, they went out there and they informed me of everything and exactly what took place. I just wanted the public to be informed that our code enforcement department did go out there, they acted on it. There were vehicles that were in the right of way. However, I want the public to know that when vehicles are in the right of way, It is not a code enforcement jurisdiction or responsibility. It is a law enforcement responsibility. However, if I'm not mistaken, I do not know the gentleman's name at this point.
Marcus Harry.
I apologize, I don't know, and I'm not gonna call his name, because I wanna make sure when I look at it, but from what I understand, that either Mr. Duyon or Mr. Collins wrote him a citation, and it's been issued, and we're gonna let the courts deal with it if you don't straighten it up.
All right, okay, I understand that. When he went out there the other day, Monday, police officer was out there, the alderman was out there, both of Mr. Tony's were out there. And any citations were given out. No citations were given out, no citations were not given out. The police did not give out anything, the inspectors did not give anything either. So that's what I'm talking about, me, and I'm not trying to cut you off, sir.
No,
But I'm saying, if they were to keep enforcing it,
Yes,
enforce it, and it would not be going on so much.
yes, ma'am.
Just go around the corner, like they say, they go one day, go 2 more days, and just go, don't just pass and just look.
I would ask you when you're done,
Yes, sir.
I would ask you, I would come meet you, and if you could give me your phone number, please.
Yes, sir.
I don't want you to give it in public, but if you
Okay,
could
that's
give me your
fine.
phone number, I would love your phone number.
Okay.
So we can
Yes, sir.
contact you in the
So
morning.
that's all I'm just asking, just please, just help.
I
Thank you.
think, ma'am, I think
Hold on,
Mr.
Richard.
Morton wanted to ask a question.
Listen. This has gone on long enough for her. I think as far back as I've been on council, she's been having a problem. Okay? Our problem is, and I said it earlier, and I say it again, Gretchen, you do understand that this right here is the person that you with right now, he's in charge. Okay. You do understand, okay? We cannot legislate this person. Heard it here, and, I hate to say it, but it is what it is. She's been having problems with this for the longest. It's supposed to have been cleared up. I thought it was, to be honest with you. I think we go back, what, 5-10 years? 5-10 years. Matter of fact, it was before Tony got here. He was having problems. Well, before then, even before then. I mean, not Danny, what's the other guy that left? I can't think.
He passed away, Mr. Danny Bear passed away.
No, not Danny, we talking about,
Jerry
Terry Mario. You remember him? Well, he was the one between, yeah. But the bottom line here is this. She hit it on the head. You know, it's just like having a schedule. If you're gonna pay us Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, well, I'm gonna be there Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay? I don't know what it's gonna take. But when I spoke to her, I'll be honest with you, it brought back some memories that I didn't want to rehash. But I remember this young lady right here actually crying because she couldn't take it anymore. When somebody tells you that, you know, that they can do what they want to do, well, I mean, bottom line is, that's true until either one or two things happen. That you show just cause, and just cause that we have an ordinance against it. So, I mean, you got a ticket book, write the ticket. You gotta, if you gotta bring police with you, I'm pretty sure the chief ain't got no problem with that, you know?
They were all out there.
No, I'm just saying, you know, that's just a cliche. You know, like this happened the other day, well, Jimmy need to go there 5 more times. Call y'all, whatever. But, once again, we go back to the fact, if he was here right now, he can explain to us what happened, why it happened, and what it's gonna do to stop. That's it. And I just wanna let you know that, look,
Just like
we'll do whatever we can to help you.
You know, if you would, just put yourself in my place.
We'll all come down there,
Yeah.
all of us on the council.
Yeah.
Yes, we.
I say, I certainly have seen your problem, there are a lot of issues, and I would like, as the police department has recently done, have taken a proactive. If they see junk cars parked in the city street or right of way, they're informing me. that's a police matter for them to handle as far as illegal parking of vehicles. If I also received information about locations where junk cars, abandoned vehicles all parked near residents, I've submitted that information to code enforcement. And I've asked that both of the departments be proactive. Don't wait till we get complaints, you know. They need to recognize those properties when they drive by and not wait for a complaint to come in, but they should be proactive.
Taxpayers, and I think I should be just, facilities like everyone else in town. And it's making me feel that we're not, that we're not being heard. And it's just really, it really is depressing, it's depressing. You come in the neighborhood, nothing is done, nothing is done. So I'm just asking, Mr. Director, enforcing for whoever else, just give out. Just go ahead and give it out, and just, to make that, your neighborhood better. When you come home, I work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. When I come home, I don't wanna see all these people, all around working on cars and getting cursed out and whatever else. Just do their job and do it consistently.
Yes.
Do it consistently. Don't just do one time, just if you continue to, do it consistently. That's all I'm asking. Thank y'all so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other items to come before the committee? The committee recesses.
Thank you.
I had something.
Thank
I want to,
I'm sorry.
no, that's fine, and I'm doing this as possibly a detriment to what I'm coming up to later on, but I wanted to address the situation here. The situation that we're running into is, and like Alderman Martin said, I'm gonna use code enforcement because it's that office becomes a black hole, right? From 2018 to 2021, I was a police officer here in Crowley. And Chief Broussard can tell you that I was a pretty active officer here. Me and Alderman Gore had spoke one day, and this problem came up, and he asked if it was something that I would be willing to help him out with. So I did. I took a date, and I went, and I'm pretty sure, I think it was about 15 cars that I tagged that were on city right-of-ways, right? When I came back to see if those situations had been taken care of, they were. They were taken care of by moving them onto the private property, right? Out of the 15 that I did, I think it was like 12 of them. 11 to 12 of them had been moved onto the property, right? I think that was what, in 2019, 2020. Right. By the time I left in 2021 to go to Lafayette PD, most of those vehicles were still in those yards. And because Alderman Gore had turned them in, and there's nothing done. This is the problem, is that when it gets to code enforcement, and I'm not gonna say anybody, that office is the black hole, and it seems to be the problem, or where the problems stop or get lost. That's where we need to be focusing on getting these things taken care of. The police can only take care of what's on public property. We do not enforce private property. That is code enforcement. If it's something that needs to be done, that needs to be where the chief and whoever's in charge of code enforcement get together to tackle these problems, then that needs to be done. That seems to be the problem, and there's no communication between the different offices. What does it have to take for us to get together as department heads to tackle these problems together? And like I said, it may be a detriment to what I'm bringing up later, but I wanted to touch on that since that was something that was brought up.
Okay, also, Mr. Court, if I may comment on what you just said. Yes, sir, we did have some issues with that early on, way early on. And the way we tried to correct that, Mr. Richard, is that we got our code enforcement department to be able to send photographs. So we started sending emails because there were dropped. There were some items that were dropped, as you would say. And then now, to make sure that we have a track record, we started sending all of our complaints with vehicles and what we needed to send to the police department. We started sending them email and copying 3 and 4 different people. And I want to say Captain Osborne, I think, is the one that they're sending it to. I'm not sure.
But that's just what's on public private. They can't deal with what's on private.
Yes, sir, that is correct. That is correct. I am not going to doubt you one second. That is correct. And what's on public right of way is what you got, what law enforcement does, and what's on private property is what code enforcement does. That is correct. Yes,
Right, and that's the disconnect, is because it's getting lost in between those two.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also,
I'll tell you, and Chief Broussard can probably attest to this, by the way, Chad Monson. When I was on the police department, probably 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, I did what Reginald said he did with you. That was actually I was a reserve police officer for about 12 years with the Crowley Police Department. And I did that. I actually kept along and I rode around, and that was something that I would do during the day on a regular basis. That's all I would do. I wasn't patrolling, I wasn't doing anything but tagging abandoned vehicles on public right-of-way. And more times than not, what happens is they move it onto private property, and then nothing's done with it. And I'll tell you that this has been going on for many years, but someone leading this city at some point needs to take charge of that and make sure it doesn't happen, because then you have the neighbors who have to deal with these people next door to them with their abandoned vehicles and their property. And one more point with the mechanic shop, I think the whole point is being missing, that with or without an occupational license, this man is actually operating a business in a residential neighborhood. That's the biggest problem. And it hasn't been taken care of in many, many years, like Mr. Martin says, because I can tell you, I've seen it there for many, many years. And this lady had to come in public, and our citizens should not be forced to do that, because now she's gonna have more problems with her neighbor because she's come out in public and did that. But I think the whole point is being missing, that there's a business being operated, whether it's a legal business or not, in a residential neighborhood.
and that would be something code enforcement would determine if they have a permit for that type of use on the fish. Thank you, Mr. Monson.
Thank you.
Chief Broussard, and hopefully you'll be the last.
Wait, you might want to let him hear.
Well, first of all, I'll say this. That particular incident, yes, the police were requested as a keep peace sake request, because there have been issues about that, that area. We went out with the alderman and with Mr. Tony Guillon and Mr. Tony Collins. As you well know, Mr. Core, if the vehicle is legally parked on the side, we normally tag it with an orange tag for 5 days. And then, we come back after 5 days, and if it's still there, we'll normally call for a record service. If it's in the roadway where it's blocking, we'll normally tow it. To my understanding, what code enforcement mentioned to our officers, and the alderman may correct me if I was wrong, it was on private property, which does not fall under us, that falls under code enforcement. I am aware they did write him a citation that day. That's what my officers told me. Also, just to clear anything up, Tony has sent maybe 2 of those particular abandoned cars, but it's been many months, and that comes from Captain Osborne himself. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chief. That's the other items to come before the committee. The committee recesses.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'll move along. Yes, sir.
You finish your call?
Yes, sir.
You done? Okay, thank you, Mr. Ford. Next is Mr. Woodridge, Public Building.
Before
Mr.
got-
Woodridge,
we got a form before I begin public business. I'd like to amend the public business agenda to consider use of Wells Fargo building for a one Crowley event.
I'll second that.
So it was moved by me and seconded by Mr. Plant. We amended the agenda. Under action items, there was none. Oh, call for,
it's okay, it's okay. Let's see.
All present, all yeas,
Yes.
nays, you got the same right?
Everybody gave.
Everybody.
It's a minute.
Thank you.
On action items that was done.
Now, yes, sir. Yes, sir, it's an action item. Bring him up first.
Mr. Risha?
Yes, sir.
President Richo, chairperson for One Crowley. I'm here speaking on behalf of One Crowley to request a partnership again this year with the city for use of the Wells Fargo building for our bi-weekly artisan market. I think everybody is pretty much kind of understanding of what it is, but just for sake of discussion, our organization is a nonprofit organization that handles events in the city, designed to kind of bring everybody together. Our artisan market is our oldest event, it's one that we hold every year, and we do it at the Wells Fargo building. It's become an asset to the city, it's bringing positive attention to the city through what we do. We normally have anywhere from over 30 vendors that show up, and in addition to a couple hundred people from the city that come by. As the event, we provide a service to those small businesses and people who are just getting started with their business, who doesn't quite have a storefront yet, but we provide a central location for them to be able to bring their stuff, bring their products, demonstrate their products, and try and get their name out, and make a little money along with it, right? So we're here again this year to request use of the building. I've presented the dates that we have to Ms. Valerie. She stated that there's no conflicts, so we were just here to make that formal request.
Great.
I'd like to make the motion that the city of Crowley co-sponsor the market and allow the use of the Wells Fargo building by the One Crowley organization for their artisan market.
I'll second.
It was offered by Clint, Councilman Gray, second by Councilwoman Stringfellow. It was, got approved, so, discussion? Ms. Stringfellow?
Reg, what is the date that it starts?
We're looking at starting March 12th.
March 12th?
Yes, and from there, it's gonna be bi-weekly until our music fest that we're having on April 2nd, and then bi-weekly, I'd have to get the dates again from you, I don't have it on me.
It's
But,
usually bi-weekly.
Yeah, it's usually bi-weekly, depending on whether there's something else, like, we made accommodations for the Rice Festival, because obviously, we can't, use it for the Rice Festival, so we've made accommodations for different, events that are already being held there, but we try to not keep it around.
Right. Mr. Wood?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind you, and you just answered my question, that there's sometimes where things do come up that we don't have on calendar at this moment. And then, of course, when we have rentals, which do pay, I mean, we're helping these people the best we can, and they, if we let them know early enough, they can reschedule their events.
Yeah, our dates are all, pretty much tentative, and we try to,
Right.
work with the city as best as possible, because we understand that, a rental on the floor, somebody, not paying for it, so, we do our best, we do ask for, as much of a heads up as possible, so that we can reschedule and market that date has been rescheduled, but yeah, we try to be as flexible as possible with the city.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Can you get your mic on? Alderman Martin?
Mayor. Yeah, get that. Okay, is that the use of the Wells Fargo building?
Yes, sir.
Well, since when do we rent out the Wells Fargo building?
We have a contract on it,
Since when?
2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago.
Well, so they do rent it out?
Yeah.
Because I remember at one time, not to say that, interfere in your data, what have you, but I didn't think that we even rent that building out. There was no contract, I remember many times trying to get that building for certain events. And I was told that we don't have a contract for it. So now you tell me that there is a
I'll
contract.
check and make sure, unless I'm mistaken, but I'll check and make sure.
Well, I think you might be mistaken right there, because unless it happened recently.
Okay.
Okay. I appreciate that. Just for FYI. Thank you.
Thanks,
So
Mr.
hope your
Easton.
event goes well.
Any other discussion on that event? That being done? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays got the same right? Ayes have it. On the discussion items, they have estimating the date on the completion of the bathrooms at the MAK building and a primary architect plan.
Okay, there are some, again, I answered this question last month. There are some primary plans. There are plans that have been given to 3 different contractors, and we are awaiting proposals from those contractors. And that's the very next step that we have to go through.
We don't have a timetable also?
No, sir, not until we get those proposals and get that back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Item 2, discuss budget repair of the criminal justice building and have a portion of the repair costs come from the general fund.
Actually, the criminal justice building, again, I said that last month, that comes from the criminal justice building under the police department. And, he can attempt to get repaired or whatever he would like to do. He's given a budget after each year, and he can get estimates, he can do many things.
Thanks,
It's his budget.
Mr. Khalil?
Yeah, I think we discussed this last month, and the understanding with the chief was that he would go ahead and get whatever quotes on work that would be necessary, or he thought would be necessary to done. And I don't know if that's been brought to anybody's attention yet.
I agree with you, sir, but they actually put it back on the agenda, so.
Sure.
I just,
Answer the question again.
Councilwoman Sprinkler?
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, Mayor, if, and possibly the finance chair, if we could discuss a portion of his budget since he doesn't house just the police in this building physically. Just maybe a portion of his budget be for repairs.
There is a portion of his budget that is for repairs. He's even made repairs before on his heated termite
But
payments.
it's 100% out of his budget for his repairs on the building, and he houses another department.
That's just like any other department. There are
But no
100%.
other department houses another department. Like the fire department doesn't house code enforcement.
How's the fire department, no, wait, say that again?
Mayor.
Okay, so the fire department,
Seriously.
houses the fire department, so he's responsible for repairs.
Right,
He's
right,
responsible
he's
for,
responsible for
That is
fire
correct.
department repairs.
recreation department is responsible for theirs as well on their building.
Right, because
The
they
jail
don't
and also
house,
the city marshal here too.
you know, they don't house code enforcement either in the rec department. You see what I mean? There's another department that is under the general fund, city court. is
They're
here.
all under general fund, they're all
Not,
under
not
one
the
hundred.
police department.
Not, yes, ma'am, they are. All of them are under 100 fund.
Okay,
All
but
under
he has
the
his
general fund.
own, he has his own,
He has his own budget, which is
Right.
approved by you, all of you, to
Right.
give to him to be able to operate.
okay.
And that's what he
Okay,
has.
well, maybe when we discuss our budget
Sure.
coming up. we
And
can talk
actually,
about it.
just to help out here, is that he can get those estimates that he's looking to inquire,
Right,
get an estimate, and then we'll sit down and talk about it. And then you know what? He
maybe
gets,
you and he can come to an agreement.
Well,
on-
he has to come to me. First of all, the council doesn't have authority to negotiate anything. He has to come to me with his amount. We can sit down. If he can afford it, it's up to him. He can look in his budget to see if he can afford it or not. And then after he looks in his budget, if he can't afford it, then guess what? He can work on it. You know what? Clint was at this class a while back. And correct me if I'm wrong, Clint, that was at that class, and what did she say? If you had emergency or desperate repairs to be done, you do them, and then you try to amend the budget if you can. Remember that plan? Okay, he can do that.
Mhm.
See, he can do the repairs, but he needs to look at his budget. But now, will they be considered emergency? Of course not. You understand? I say of course not. I'm not gonna conclude
there is
that.
mold in the
I'm not gonna conclude that, but he can get estimates on things that are of concern or I'm not gonna say the word emergency, let me retract that statement. But if there are some things that are in desperate, desperate need of being repaired or cleaned or whatever it may be. But again, it does cost a fine line. You gotta control your budget.
Right, I understand that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chadbourne, sir.
Mr. Woolridge, and, y'all been discussing this for 2 months. Just like when the police department or fire department or any other department has an expenditure in excess of what they're budgeted at the beginning of the fiscal year, they come to the council with that amount, and they ask the council to appropriate those funds. I understand what Ms. Stringfellow is saying, that the police department is the only department in a building that shares with other departments in the city. However, his budget is 100% responsible for repairs and maintenance of the entire building, whereas every other department is not like that. That department is 100% that building. However, if the police chief gets his 3, 4, 10 quotes, however many he wants to get, above 3, and comes to the council and says, this is what it's going to cost. The fire chief has done it multiple times with repairs on the fire trucks. This is what it's going to cost to repair this building. This is how much I have left in my budget for building repairs. I need this much more money. All of the money comes from the general fund. It's all the same pot of gold that's distributed throughout the entire city in each department. Therefore, this council appropriates funds and amends the budget, this living document that's been argued about numerous times also, when it's needed. So if the police department comes up and tells you that they need $100,000 to repair the building and they have $20,000 in their building repair fund, then the general fund, or council will appropriate $100,000 if they want to the police department's building fund so that the police department can fix the building that the rest of the city uses. So it's all the same pot of money. The money can be appropriated by you guys.
He is somewhat right. I'm gonna correct him on some of the things, that the city of Crowley is not entirely like that. 600 account, which is the recreation department. They're not 100. Everybody needs to understand that. If you have your budget, the 650 and the 600 is the recreation department. They're not funded by the 100 account. They are not funded by general fund. It's not the same pot of gold.
Tax.
They are the recreation department. It comes from different appropriations. Also, the other department is wastewater, another building who is totally separate. They also are separated by the 100 account, 100 account, there are the 700 and 750, because they have a maintenance and an operational expense. So they are separate. So you have police, fire, G&A, street, and public works. So
you're right, with the exception of the taxes, because those, you have recreation tax, you have recreation building tax.
They are
Those are those funds that fund those places. You have sewer tax, you have
it's collected
wastewater.
by different
Exactly.
sources. That is
You're right, I know that.
So my recommendation would be that if it's an emergency that needs to be repaired, then of course he could get his bids, whatever, bring it to the council for approval to amend the budget. But keep in mind, we only have 6 months left before the new budget comes out. My suggestion would be if it's not an emergency, that, again, I have to agree with Kim, or the mayor, that he needs to get the proper documentation, how much it's gonna cost, and get with the mayor and have that put into his budget for next year. We're talking 6 months, and then he can make the repairs on it. That would be the way that I would say that this needs to go. Emergency, yes, amend the budget. If it's not an emergency, it's gonna take 6 months anyway, by the time you get all the bids and get everything that needs to be done. So I would say he get with the mayor, and they come up with the appropriate amount of money to add to his budget, and we'll approve it.
Just to, kind of put a bow on it, I mean, I understand everything that everyone said, I understand that about the budget, I just wanted to kind of put that out there again for us to be thinking about it for the next budget possibly, but I understand, and I think the best thing, would be for you and the chief to get together on that, so, thank you.
Thank everyone for their discussions. Item 3, update on the Central Park Station.
If you don't mind, I have someone who would like to report some good news to you.
So, the council knows that we got $125,000 grant from the Act 140 money from, Johnson Fancy in the state of Louisiana. So we submitted plans to the fire marshal, we got approval from the fire marshal. We submitted those plans back to facility and planning. Last week, we got the okay to move forward. I think it was Monday, yeah, it was Monday. Mayor Monso and Mr. Yale Havas met with, Mr. Tom Reagan, and they signed the contract, signed the agreement, and we're waiting on the architect to sign, give us a letter for us to move forward, and the letter should come Monday. So next week, we should start fixing up the building, so we have a place to call home again.
Okay, of course.
Councilman Moore.
Chief, how long did this take? I know the money was just appropriated.
In November, we've been in that, we call it the dentist office, because that's what it used to be.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
We've been there 5 years.
No, I'm saying, how quick did you get this appropriation? Was it the same time that the money came down from MLK?
I got the check for the renovations, don't hold me to this, October, November.
October, November. And now you got everything planned and everything ready to go. And here we are, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years. No, I'm just asking a question, Okay? Just asking a question. How long did it take from the time that check was presented to everything approved, you're waiting on the architect? Few months.
We received the check, and I can give you the exact date, because I got a copy of the check in the folder.
Right,
I wanna say October or November
October of last year.
of 21.
Oh, yeah, last year. And yet, everything is ready to roll in what, 5 months, 6 months? MLK, going on what, 4 years, 3 years? You got the money, what, last year? That's all I'm saying. Priorities, man, I understand about the
Just want to
fund.
make,
That's fine, we good.
in accordance with his question, it's a very good question, but they are two different funds. They're two different funds, and they're appropriated two different ways. One takes longer than the other, and one has a little bit different process than the other. So, anyway, if that helps.
Do we know the total estimated cost of the renovation project?
They had 3 bids, one was a no bid, one was one, and don't hold me to these numbers, I'm just giving you what I remember. One was 124,
119.
one was 124 and 119.
And a no bid, what's that mean?
A no bid means that a person that you submitted the plans to can't bid it. They just can't bid it at this time.
And can you kind of give us just a brief summary of what the renovations are going to consist? Will that be able to move everyone back in to the fire station?
So, from the plans that I've seen, we dropping the ceiling down, so we're putting a false ceiling. We're not gonna have the plastered ceiling, we're gonna drop the ceiling. On the south side wall, in the bunk room, in my office, they're going to stud up put insulation between the two walls, the brick wall, and they're gonna put sheet rock, and they're gonna paint. They're gonna encase all the windows, because right now, the windows got holes in it. They're gonna encase that to make it look clean. They're gonna redo the dormitory bathroom. They're going to gut out the whole kitchen. They're gonna take the wall with the single door that you can leave the kitchen to go into the rec room, into the big meeting room. They're gonna take that wall out to extend the kitchen. The double doors in the rec room, they're going to take the double doors completely out and put a single door. And inside the extension of the kitchen, they're gonna do 3 pantries, a pantry for each shift. Where we can put the ice box for each shift inside the pantry, and put some shelves on the wall that everybody can put their personal pots and pans and all that.
Within the kitchen, we have, actually cooking there, or
Yes, sir.
hood and so forth?
We have a hood now. I think the hood we have now, the only thing we gotta do is put a new fan, in it. And they got the vent leading from the hood to the outside of the building. So, and I think inside the kitchen, we talked about putting a little storage, like a little supply cabinet.
Cabinet area.
Yes, inside the kitchen.
And how many, people can be housed, during the shift, there? The way it's
Right now,
laid
we've
out.
got 8 beds. So the 8 beds are gonna go into the dorm, and then the whole, what we call a TV room, that's gonna be a female dorm room.
I got,
Then that bathroom, the female bathroom is gonna be upgraded.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Mr. Wood, I thank you for allowing me to speak. I have to commend the chief for being able to remember all of this and not being in that type of business before. Great job, by the way. And memorizing all of these moves and these areas.
Oh, and all the lighting, we're gonna be taking from fluorescents, putting LEDs, save on some utilities.
And that's all in that price?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
and all convenience of all of the people who are sleeping on shift will have their own electrical, computer, so forth and so on. Plugins, yes.
And just suggesting, don't do like they did at the recreation department, make sure your roof isn't leaking before you do the ceiling, because I saw it over there.
As of the last rain, the heavy rain, there's no leaks. So it looks like whatever they did, 8, 9, 10 months ago, has fixed it. So there's no leaks.
Thanks, Chief, I appreciate that.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Any more business coming for public business before we recess? There being none, we recess.
Thank you, insurance and personnel. I just wanted to, go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Insurance and Personnel Committee will convene. We have a quorum. There are no action items under discussion items. Discuss, hiring a grant writer or finder, possibly part-time. And, Mr. Martin, I think one major difference between the firehouse and MLK building is our chief got a grant. And that helped tremendously.
Yeah, but the
And
money
I
is,
asked him about, and if we had someone who could look for grants for other things for us, I think we would be further along in so many other things. We're always worried about funding, for things.
but,
Rain-
Chair, if I may,
Yes, sir.
it came from the same person. John Stefanski, I represent John Stefanski,
Right.
gave fire department their check and also gave a check for the board of
But I'm saying if we had someone that could follow those dates and, because if we
Yeah,
had
but I just
someone
wanna make
that.
it clear, there's no
Right.
distinction between whether the money came from the Red Cross or whatever.
Right.
It came from the same appropriation.
Right,
Representatives to things.
right, I understand. And that, you know, when the fire chief was up here speaking, he said he's personally gone out and found 4 to 5 grants. He said he's always looking for free money. I said, whoa, you got a grant for $125,000. I know, Captain Melissa Withers has found grants for the police department. We do have grants, that Mr. Mader finds for us, but, what does Mr. Mader know about the police and fire department? And this does take time from Captain Withers, from her job. This takes time from our fire chief, from his job. This is something that, as all of you know, I've been on this bandwagon for 3-4 years now, that we do need someone who can follow those. I've looked into them. April 2020, I stayed home and worked from home, and I looked at grants for the city of Crowley. I didn't have all of the numbers I needed, I didn't have all the access to everything, but I found grant, and it takes someone just to do that. And it's a job, and we need someone who is looking after Crowley and actively going out looking for that money, because I'm telling you, Rain gets them, Jennings gets them, and here in Crowley, we're behind. So interested in what, possibly the mayor has to say about it, or anyone else. Mayor?
I don't think we're behind. I think we have a lot of people who are within our city have succeeded at getting grants. We have Mr. Tim Mader, who does quite a bit at getting us grants, which is worth millions of dollars.
Respectfully, Mayor, Mr. Tim Mayer is a very expensive grant writer.
Also, we have another.
He is a very expensive grant writer. We could have a grant writer that worked part-time.
Also, I do have, I can finish. Also, we do have a part-time a grant writer. Her name is Miss Crowley. She does write grants for us, and she will be glad to whenever we are in need of it. So, anyway, that happens to be an administrative decision. I do appreciate and respect your concern.
I did not know we had Mrs.
And Mr. Martin is well aware of Mr. Mader getting grants and all kinds of things for his wastewater department. Has been for many, many years. Mr. Martin can tell you.
I didn't know Miss Claire, which grants has she written for us so far?
She's assisted us with Jessica for with Jessica Richardson. She's been instrumental in that one, getting us a $10,000 grant. And let's see, Ms. Jill Habits is here too, and she was helpful in that as well. From our historical district.
Oh, okay.
And that was discussed upon
So
way
she's on
back
like a
when.
contract, she's a contract.
Mhm.
Okay.
Just
So
like a
that's
lot of others
essentially
are.
a part-time
And
grant writer.
And you say people are expensive, well, whenever I took office, there was a person who was responsible for the city of Crowley's, and it was costing us anywhere from 30 to
Yes, I
40,000.
know, she was in Baton Rouge,
But-
and respectfully, Mayor, she did not just write grants for Crowley.
Okay,
I've looked into that, you
but
know
I'm
that
talking
I
about
have
Ms.
certain-
Stringfellow,
Yes.
if I may
I'm the
finish,
chair,
if I may finish,
I'm the chair,
I
so,
was speaking, I apologize.
I know, but I'm the chair.
Go ahead,
So,
you can come on, it's okay.
We've spoken about this, we had someone in Baton Rouge who was doing grants for us, but she didn't just write for Crowley, she wrote all over, and yes, she was expensive, I agree. And when I first asked for a grant writer, if we could possibly look into having a grant writer, I did not ask for one for full-time, possibly someone part-time, so I'm glad you have Ms. Claire Doré. If she's on contract, that's wonderful, I just did not know, that was happening. So I'll reach out to her and discuss with her, things that I think we can find grants for. Okay, Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to clarify that yes, she did write all over, but she wrote for us. And our expense was anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000, depending on what she wrote. So,
Mayor, respectfully, that is not the amount that would be today for a part-time. We can ask our finance chair
no,
what
I
that
got
would be.
that, and I'm not comparing
You know,
that.
that
Ms.
would-
Stringfellow, I'm not comparing that. All I'm telling you is what it did cost us, that's all I'm saying. And then, that's all I said.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anyone else have anything on that? And finance chair, do you have anything on that? I mean, it could.
Yeah, actually I did, because I remember when there was an issue of $1.6 million grant to be established with the increase of a sewer user fee, someone said grant money's taxpayer dollars. I think if you add up the hours that Chief Romero put in to do his, the amount of hours that potentially that Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you actually can, and you won't know until you put the costs together, justify having somebody, because it should be a contract, in my opinion, in the sense that it's gotta be productive, either produce or, you know, you sit on the clock basically. I think we've brought in, I don't know the figure out that, we've brought in a pretty good amount of grants this past year or two, fiscal years. And it does help that we have Representative Stefanski here in Crowley.
Well, as long as we have someone on contract, that's wonderful. Then I don't need to bring it up any longer if Ms. Claire is doing that for us. I appreciate it. And, Alderman Prater?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, it's a moot point. If we have somebody on contract, now we know it,
Right.
then that's great. That's what you've been asking for all this
Right.
time, so
Absolutely.
it's a moot point now. We have someone on contract. Let's
Yeah,
use it.
that's all I asked, so thank you. And, is there anything else to come before the Insurance and Personnel Committee? And the committee will recess.
Community and Economic Development, Mr. Reggie?
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a quorum here. So everybody is present. I'll start with reports. Garden Club has paid for entry for Clean the City contest for this year. And the mayor and I worked a little bit last week, working on the route. We'll take some pictures and try to start working on some of that. Under Chamber of Commerce, State of the Parish Luncheon is still March 25th. And there was a little bit of stuff going on Rice Capital Parkway. Fizos, of course, is doing a bunch of dirt work. And my understanding is the property to the left of Fizos is now under contract. And if you look at the Steinus building, a little bit further down to the right, they're getting ready to do a little bit of dirt work, and they're constructing a building for the USDA offices. And then under the tourism, of course, Mardi Gras yesterday was a big success, especially with the weather. A lot of turnout. Rice City Car and Tractor Show is still May 28th, 2022. And Valerie said she was going to be out here shortly with maternity leave. And Jill, do you have a report for Main Street or? Okay, I'll get it.
Thanks for waiting.
Good evening, everybody. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak every month and kind of give you all an update on what the Main Street program is doing and what our organization has been up to. Right now, we're in full active mode of searching for the next Main Street director. We've had several applications. We will start interviewing, in-person interviews for that particular position next week. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll have another person hired. The quarterly Louisiana Main Street meeting will be held March the 7th and 8th in New Orleans. This is a mandatory meeting and attendance is required as part of our agreement to maintain Crowley status as a designated Main Street community. One of our board members will be attending that meeting since we don't have a Main Street director at this time. History Alive is back this March. History Alive will be held on March the 25th and the 26th. The tours are sold out, so that's a very positive thing. I think that the tours have been very wide received, and hopefully we'll have more tours this coming May. The feedback that we've been getting from our participants is that they would really like be able to go into some of our historic buildings. We think that would add something to the tours, so that's something that we're looking at for the future. And we also would like to maybe work with our city tourism director and the city to maybe offer an opportunity at some of these Main Street events or tours to where City Hall could be open. It is a museum, and it is something that the public would like to see. And if we could incorporate that in some way into our Main Street events, we would like to do that. We know that with COVID, it hasn't been the greatest thing to do, but now that since COVID restrictions are being lifted, we hope we can do something like that or work towards something like that in the future. So the City Hall does have, wonderful museums, and it's a good space. On tonight's committee agenda, we have a lot of our different events that we'll be doing throughout 2022. We appreciate the council's support with that, and we hope you will continue to co-sponsor all those particular events. I am also very happy to report that as a designated Louisiana Main Street community, Crowley Main Street now has access to grantwatch.com, courtesy of Louisiana Main Street Managers Association. The association has paid the annual membership fee for that, and because we are a designated Main Street program, we will now have access to the different grants that are available through that particular program. Grant Watch is a list of many, many grant opportunities from across the country. These grant opportunities are from foundations, corporations, federal, state, and local government funding sources. We are very excited and grateful to have that resource available to us, and we hope to be able to utilize that resource in the future. I want to encourage all members of this Economic Development Committee to reach out to our organization to discuss potential projects that we might think is needed for downtown and for our city. That's what our Main Street program is here for, to work in conjunction with the city for progress for our city business growth. And so if there is a particular project that you think that we need to work on or take on, we're here to work in conjunction with the city for that. So maybe this particular resource will open up other further opportunities for us. COAs, that's kind of a wrap up of the Main Street. As many of you know too, the Main Street organization also works hand in hand with Crowley's Historic District Commission. So I just kind of wanted to give you an update on that as well. During the month of February, the Historic District Commission had one certificate of appropriateness come before the commission for approval. The commission approved a new sign for Kramer's Equipment and Supply Company. Kramer's is now a True Value store, and they wanted signage to reflect that. So that's another great opportunity for them and for our downtown business. Historic District Training. On March the 19th, there will be a training session for all City of Crowley Historic District Commissioners. The training session will be led by Amanda Lanata. I'm not pronouncing that right, I know. But she is a Louisiana Certified Local Government Coordinator, and Grace Schreiber, who is the State Louisiana Main Street Director, will be in Crowley also to lead that particular training. So it's a wonderful opportunity to educate our Historic District Commissioners on statewide historic, preservation initiatives, how to better serve as a commission for our state. And I think it's going to be a wonderful resource and training for our commissioners. And we think it's going to be held in City Hall, and we thank the mayor for hosting that. So, Historic District Survey, the CLG grant that the City of Crowley received and also funded in part by Crowley Main Street is on track. As of February the 16th, the consultant submitted 429 forms to the State Historic Preservation Office for review. Once the state office reviews the report and accepts them, the consultant will then write a survey report that will discuss the results of the survey, which from those recommendations will form the next phase, which is hopefully updating the City of Crowley's National Register district. The survey report will include recommendations for possible other individual listings in the city of Crowley's for the National Register, as well as possible other areas of Crowley that could be formed as a historic district. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what her survey has, found out, and what she feels that we could do to further these different economic development tools in Crowley. The grant work that is going on now, as many of you know, is phase 1. That's just the survey. And the next CLG grant cycle will be coming up very soon. Our hope is that the city would be interested in applying for another grant this year to use the survey results that we get from phase 1 to update the city's existing National Register of Historic District. I believe updating the period of significance is most important at this point, as it will make other historic buildings eligible to apply for federal rehabilitation tax incentive programs, and will also, if the survey findings show that other areas of our city would be conducive to forming a historic district, of course it will open up other areas within the city for those particular tax programs that come down through the preservation office. So that's my little report for this month. Again, I appreciate the time to come and fill you in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for staying.
Okay, so under action items, to approve the request of Crowley Main Street for the city of Crowley to co-sponsor the following Crowley Main Street events for 2022, March 25th through 26th, the First History Alive. April 29th will be the Oregon Wine Stroll. May 13th and 14th, History Alive again. September 17th is Kids Day. October 14th and 15th, another History Alive. November 10th is the Taste of Crowley. November 25th and 26th is the last History Alive. November 26th is Small Business Saturday, and December 10th is Christmas in Crowley. And I so second by Clint Prater. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Number 2, to approve the suspension of the open container ordinance to allow Crowley Main Street to serve for consumption wine on North Parkinson Avenue between the courthouse and 2nd Street in the city of Crowley during the organization's Oregon Wine Stroll scheduled for April 22nd, 2022 between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. and also the Taste of Crowley scheduled for November 10th, 2022 from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I so moved. Second by Mr. Ford.
It's 29, what you said. I just want to make sure it's recorded correctly.
I'm sorry, yeah, April 29th, 2022.
That's okay.
Okay, and seconded by Mr. Ford. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I have no discussion items, so I will recess.
Okay, thank you. Next is revenue and finance, and I would like to add that, that I had Ms. Jones move this to revenue and finance, because it's just like if I were to get something under, public works, I wouldn't put it under, under, public safety. So, Ms. Stringfellow did send this in and requested, so I'm just making that note.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Revenue Finance Committee convened, all present without, except the absence of Stephen Primo. There were no action items, any discussion items, need date. Council is able to access computer system in order to check on work orders and inspect the budget and financials. And number 2, need date when council can expect to complete the computer training. I haven't heard anything new, Mr. Mayor.
No, sir. I don't have anything new as of right now. The computer company is still helping us, and we're still trying to get all of the things out. The audit is going on. We're trying to get that done. Hopefully that everything will come out just right. We hope and pray. Chantel is doing an excellent job. She's working very hard. her and Mr. Charlie Absher are working very hard to try to make sure that that gets done. Chantel is very on top of her computer game, and she is very well aware of the computer system and what its pluses and what its minuses and so forth and so on. So, I apologize, I'm not gonna get into full detail of it, but, the answer to your question, on the computer system, once we get it, you know, ironed out, all the little bugs ironed out, then we can move into that.
Yes, Mr. Crowley?
Thank you, Chair. Mayor, just wanted to see if we could, do you know if we'll be able to access the work orders? Because I have, like 50 work orders. We were supposed to be able to like look at them, and we don't have a follow-up. I think is the thing.
I'm sorry, this is the best I can give you right at this moment, and her and I met today, and we were working on, as soon as she gets her recons done, she's looking at possibly running a, what we call a revenue.
You're talking about Chantel or?
Chantel.
Oh, okay, so
So
she's in charge of the work order things?
Not yet,
Oh, okay.
not yet, so we're trying to get all this worked out.
Okay.
Right now, we're really
So it's
trying.
that same system, the computer?
Yes, so, but we're really trying, we're gonna get there, but we're really trying to get all of this information for you, and we're trying to get all this information for our auditors. At the same time, it's very difficult, but as soon as we're done with the auditors, and she gets her recons done, and I'm hoping that we'll have a report in 2 weeks from the auditors. But we're hoping to have her, she's hoping to have her recons done by the end of this week, and if she does, she can get you your revenue and expense report by the end, before the next council meeting. So if at best, right now, we'll be able to send you an email of our revenue and expense report, okay?
Okay.
So that way you can review it. All
And
right?
Rich, she's also, just to be clear, she's also the same system is over the work orders that we get.
No, this is a different system, and that's what I'm trying to get together for you.
Okay,
I'm trying to make sure that we got everything going on,
okay,
and we're still currently using a little bit of the old system.
okay. I was just
I know,
confused as to
I know
which
it's-
system does
it's-
what, and,
it's a
because we were just told we were gonna be able to look at them, you know, so.
I apologize, but not at the moment.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else on the subject? That being said, Revenue Finance Committee recess.
All right, sir.